Important update about YouTube playlists. Hey everyone. We've received many messages asking why our YouTube playlists aren't showing up. Do we create YouTube playlists? Yes, we absolutely do. So why can't you see them? Honestly, we're not sure. We've been in contact with YouTube support for several months now, but we still haven't received a clear answer or solution. After much discussion, our team has decided to take matters into our own hands. We believe the issue might be related to the number of playlists we've created on a single channel, possibly too many. Our solution? We're launching 2 additional YouTube channels, giving us a total of 3. This way, we can organize our audiobooks better and avoid the playlist visibility issue in the future. This change only affects our YouTube audience. If you're a patron supporter, you can still access all our audiobooks by visiting the collection menu on Patreon. Thanks so much for your time and continued support. Happy listening. Chapter 1. Resonance of Fate. Year 2 of Hidden Leaf Village. A man stepped out of the gates of Hidden Leaf Village alone. Clad in black, his long, flowing hair cascaded down his back. He carried a sickle and a fan, walking towards the golden sunset. His figure was proud, yet tinged with a sense of desolation and loneliness. He was Madara Uchiha. 3 days ago, he had lost the election for Hokage. Hashirama Senju had won by an overwhelming majority, ascending to the position of Hokage. Reality was completely different from what Hashirama had promised. Not only had Madara failed to become Hokage, but he was also increasingly shunned by the villagers. He had thought that founding Hidden Leaf Village would bring peace, but in reality, the rift between the Senju and Uchiha clans had not disappeared. The streets of the village were filled with laughter and joy, but all he could feel was alienation and distance. It turned out that everything had been nothing but an illusion. From this moment on, he understood that the prejudices in people's hearts were like a mountain. As long as the rift existed, so-called peace would be nothing more than a fleeting illusion. If this continued, the Uchiha clan would inevitably perish in the facade of peace. He realized this and called upon the Uchiha clan to leave with him, but in the vast clan territory, not a single member was willing to follow him. Now, he had not only lost his brother but also his clan. He had become a man who was no longer admired, recognized, or needed. Someone who was even slightly redundant in both the village and the clan. The cold wind blew, and the setting sun cast a lonely glow. His long hair danced in the wind, and in a place where no one could see, his eyes were filled with loss and sorrow. However, at that very moment, a young and urgent voice called out from behind. Madara-sama. Madara Uchiha paused, the bitterness in his eyes quickly hidden, replaced by his usual cold and authoritative demeanor. He turned around and saw a boy running towards him. The boy had delicate features, fair skin, and wore the high-collared clan attire of the Uchiha. His short black hair was neat, and his long eyelashes gave him a gentle appearance. His eyes were as clear as jade, with a deep, ink-like hue. His steps were light, and despite the distance, he caught up in just a few breaths. A speed that was unusual for someone his age. "It's you?" Madara recognized him. The boy's name was Kamien Uchiha, and he had become a ninja at a young age. Madara remembered him because, 4 years ago, Kamien had been on the battlefield, fighting the Senju clan to the end. He was even known by the title Phantom of Speed. "Madara-sama, I'm surprised you still remember me," the boy said sincerely, standing behind Madara. "I am Kamien Uchiha, and I wish to follow you." "What?" Madara's heart stirred slightly, his pupils trembling. "You're willing to leave Hidden Leaf Village with me?" Kamien bowed respectfully, his words earnest. "Yes. Unlike those foolish clan members, I am willing to leave with you." Madara's emotions became complex. He scrutinized Kamien up and down, remaining silent for a long time before finally letting out a cold snort. "Humphrey, are you here to pity me?" Madara Uchiha turned his head away, giving Kamien the back of his head. "Go back. Even though I am no longer your clan leader, I, Madara Uchiha, do not need anyone's pity." "Pity?" Kamien tilted his head in confusion. But he quickly noticed that although Madara was verbally dismissing him, his body remained rooted to the spot, not moving an inch. "So, deep down, you still want me to come with you?" Kamien's eyes flashed with understanding. Typical Uchiha pride. He immediately said, "Madara-sama, I truly want to leave Hidden Leaf Village. Staying here no longer holds any meaning for me." "Why?" Madara asked without turning around. Hearing this question, Kamien finally breathed a sigh of relief. When Madara had abruptly told him to leave, he had indeed felt a pang of worry. After all, he really didn't want to go back. He was a transmigrator, and a pure one at that. He had been born 5 years before the founding of Hidden Leaf Village, during the final years of the Warring States period, when the Senju and Uchiha clans were still locked in battle. Later, the two clans reconciled, and Hidden Leaf Village was established. But knowing the future of the Uchiha clan, how could he not be aware of what was to come? Moreover, a trace of hatred flashed across Kamien's youthful face. The Senju clan slaughtered my parents. They weren't even ninjas, they were just helping injured clan members. Yet the Senju killed them mercilessly. He spoke in a low voice. This hatred is something I can never let go of, no matter how much time passes. Madara nodded. It seems we share the same pain, but that's not enough reason for me to take you with me. I remember you have a younger brother, don't you? I do, but that fool has been brainwashed by the Senju. He is completely devoted to the so-called will of fire, forgetting all about our hatred, shaking hands with our enemies. How laughable. Kamien's face was filled with bitterness, and a hint of ruthlessness flashed in his eyes. Kagami Uchiha has betrayed me. He is no longer my brother. Madara Uchiha's gaze drifted, falling into silence, clearly moved by Kamien's words. Kamien stared at Madara's back. Since you lost the Hokage election, I've come to understand that if even you can't become Hokage, who in the Uchiha clan can stand up for us? This so-called peace was achieved through our compromises, but those pitiful clan members actually believe Hidden Leaf Village will accept them? Like Kagami, they've all been softened, like frogs in slowly boiling water. What awaits them is nothing but a slow death. Every word struck a chord, and Madara remained silent, but Kamien could clearly see that his body was trembling slightly. Seeing the timing was right, Kamien played his final card, living there, watching those ignorant clan members. Sometimes I even forget who I am. My patience with this foolish clan has completely run out. At this, Madara Uchiha was finally moved. He looked up at the sky and let out a long sigh. Though Kamien couldn't see his expression, the twilight cast a lonely and desolate shadow over his figure. The boy's resentful and helpless accusations had struck a chord in Madara's heart. He felt a sense of loss, as if they were both kindred spirits adrift in the world. Kamien also knew that his words wouldn't gain anyone's approval, but for Madara at this moment, they were devastating. I don't need weak followers, Madara Uchiha said, his tone haughty. Kamien smiled, closing his eyes briefly. When he opened them again, his once black eyes had turned a deep, blood red, with 3 black tomoe spinning around his pupils. Oh? The aura of the 3 tomoe Sharingan. Madara Uchiha finally turned around, showing a hint of interest. No wonder you were able to fight on the battlefield at such a young age. So your eyes have already developed to this level. He crossed his arms. At this level, you might just have the qualifications to follow me. Kamien's lips curled slightly, and his luminous pupils glowed red. The 3 tomoe spun and intertwined, rapidly forming the intricate pattern of the Mangekyo Sharingan. The design resembled a gear or a magic circle, symbolizing a cycle and balance. The pattern was exquisite and beautiful, like a flawless piece of art. You've awakened. The Mangekyo Sharingan. Madara seemed momentarily stunned, his expression instantly turning serious. His voice carried a hint of surprise. Even he couldn't remain calm upon seeing these eyes. Because this almost represented the pinnacle of what a Uchiha clan member could achieve. What exactly have you been through? In history, only a handful of Uchiha had evolved their Sharingan to the Mangekyo level. Madara himself had only seen 2 pairs. But now, this 3rd pair of Mangekyo Sharingan had appeared on the boy. Although his ocular power was far inferior to Madara's, it was restrained and calm, like still water. He was undoubtedly a promising talent. Kamien's future was filled with infinite possibilities. Similar circumstances, a resonance of fate, and these Mangekyo Sharingan. Madara appeared in front of Kamien in an instant, a spark of excitement in his eyes. If it's you, perhaps you can truly carry out my will. In truth, after Kamien had expressed his complete disillusionment with the Uchiha clan, Madara had already decided to take him along. But he never expected there would be such a pleasant surprise. A true Uchiha would never submit to a false peace. Only those who awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan can see the true nature of the world, for they have experienced the most soul-crushing pain and despair. Madara suppressed his excitement, his gaze fixed intently on Kamien's eyes. What he was most curious about now was, what is the ability of your Mangekyo? Chapter 2, the Mangekyo Sharingan outside the village of Hidden Leaf Village. So, Lord Madara, you agree to take me with you? Kamien asked softly. Madara nodded with pride. Whether it was Kamien's experiences or his Mangekyo Sharingan, they resonated with Madara. Both were kindred spirits, adrift in the world. Whether as a follower, an assistant, or a successor, Madara had already decided to take him along on his journey. Thank you, Lord Madara. Kamien finally smiled with genuine relief. The abilities of these eyes are my greatest secret. He raised his hand, his fingertips gently brushing over his eye sockets. His pupils were crystal clear, with a jade-like texture. But since it's you, Lord Madara, I suppose it's fine to tell you. Under Madara's curious gaze, Kamiane began to explain. The ability of his left eye was called Mangekyo, which allowed him to adapt to all things and deliver the strongest counterattack against the adapted target. Essentially, a post-strike adaptation to anything in the world. To be more specific, it involved infinite analysis of everything he touched or saw. This process was called adaptation. Once adaptation was complete, he could nullify the effects of such influences, gaining permanent immunity, and deliver a precise counterattack against the source. The power of adaptation was tied to quality and wouldn't be overridden by time or space. Moreover, if he was attacked again during the adaptation process, it would accelerate the adaptation. The term infinite analysis meant that even after adaptation, the analysis wouldn't stop. It would only become more optimized. The only thing he couldn't adapt to was the damage inflicted on his eyes when using their power. The ability of his right eye was called Monotokatachi, which allowed for time-space reversal. It freely reversed his own time-space state, unconditionally restoring his current state to a previous moment, with a maximum range of 5 minutes. The time scale was virtually infinite, and after activation, there was only a 1-second cooldown. Both time and space states could be flexibly selected. However, time nodes that had already been reversed couldn't be selected as targets for reversal again. The more Madara listened, the more intrigued he became. His eyes sparkled with fascination. Infinite adaptation and time-space reversal. These are truly divine techniques. And when combined, their effects are even more extraordinary. It had to be said, the Uchiha clan leader had a sharp eye. Kamiane blinked. In truth, he had concealed a small detail about his right eye's ability. The target of time-space reversal wasn't limited to himself. Anything in the world, as long as it was within his line of sight, could be subjected to time-space reversal. The selection of the reversal target could only be concretized to a macroscopic individual, but doing so would consume a massive amount of chakra. The greater the target's impact on the macroscopic world and the further back in time the selected point was, the more intense the chakra consumption. He couldn't be blamed for keeping this from Madara. If the full extent of his right eye's ability were known, it would mean he wasn't just the ultimate shield but also the ultimate support. Who knows if Madara would start treating him as a tool. Living in the ninja world, it was always wise to keep a few cards up one's sleeve. Alright, let's go. Madara turned around, his earlier melancholy now overshadowed by the joy of having Kamiane by his side. But Kamiane didn't move. What is it? Madara tilted his head slightly, puzzled. Did you forget something? Well, you could say that. Kamiane chuckled. Lord Madara, there's actually another member of the clan who has awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan. What? Madara asked, surprised. Your brother? Kamiane shook his head. He doesn't have the talent. He hasn't even awakened his Sharingan yet, but that's not important. Do you remember, Lord Madara, during the mid-warring states period, the Uchiha clan sealed secret weapon? The Uchiha clan's secret weapon? Madara pondered for a moment, then suddenly realized. The dust of time fell away, and a long-buried memory slowly surfaced in his mind. Many years ago, when Madara wasn't yet the clan leader, the Uchiha clan had a young girl named Hikari Uchiha. Like Kamiane, she had awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan at a very young age, and her ocular ability was the divine technique known as Yasaka Magatama. Yasaka Magatama allowed her to mark enemies and absorb their chakra to strengthen herself. Once marked, she could control their mind and chakra through a connection, and the chakra could be transferred to herself or others regardless of distance. Such a skill naturally drew the attention of the clan. The clan's leaders imprisoned her in a dark, sunless dungeon, only releasing her when they needed her for battle. But that wasn't enough. In their pursuit of ultimate power, these madmen forcibly implanted the Amaterasu and Tsukuyomi techniques into her, turning her into a weapon of the Uchiha, stripping her of her name, freedom, and rights as a human being. Thus, the Uchiha's ultimate weapon, Nameless, was born. Nameless's appearance immediately turned the tide of the battlefield for the Uchiha. The Senju clan, having suffered losses, allied with other ninja clans to launch targeted operations. In the end, at great cost, they finally managed to seal Nameless away. Are you suggesting we release her? Madara asked. Yes, she too was abandoned. If we can bring her into our group, under your leadership, Lord Madara, we could become a new Uchiha. Kamiane coaxed. A new Uchiha. Madara was stunned, a warm current flowing through his heart, illuminating a dark corner within him. But he frowned slightly. That was a long time ago, and even I don't know the location of the seal. Just because you don't know doesn't mean Hidden Lee Village doesn't. Kamiane said with a sly smile. I suspect that in the Hokage's secret archives, there must be a scroll containing information about the weapon. Though he didn't know the exact location of the seal, based on his memory, such information was recorded in a secret scroll titled The Warring States Sealing History, which was typically stored in Hidden Leaf Village's secret archives. I see. Madara mused, momentarily at a loss. He had just broken up with Hashirama and left the village. Going back now, tail between his legs. It wasn't his style. Kamiyane noticed Madara's hesitation and immediately patted his chest. Lord Madara, I can sneak back in and steal the scroll under the cover of night. Isn't that too dangerous for you? Aren't you afraid of being discovered by the Senju ninja? Madara gazed toward Hidden Leaf Village and shook his head. Kamiyane smiled confidently. Lord Madara, teleportation and stealth are my specialties. They won't notice me. Even when I followed you out of the village, I avoided everyone's sight. No wonder you didn't come with me immediately. You had this in mind all along. Madara pondered. He was a decisive man and quickly agreed to Kamiyane's plan. The two agreed to act that night. Regardless of whether Kamiyane succeeded, he had to leave the village before the moon was at its brightest, and Madara would wait outside the village to receive him. Then, Kamiyane's right eye glowed red as the Mangekyo pattern slowly rotated, and the whites of his eyes became streaked with fine blood vessels. The setting sun was blood red, the clouds aflame, and the falling leaves hung in midair. The sound of the wind ceased, and time seemed to stand still. From Kamiyane's perspective, his body left a bizarre, twisted trail in space, like a long strand of noodles stretching from his current location all the way to Hidden Leaf Village. His vision seemed to shift into a four-dimensional space, where a progress bar-like entity represented the trail of his movements in space over the past 5 minutes, each moment clearly visible. Now, he could freely drag this progress bar, select a time node, and hit play. He would instantly appear at the selected location. This was his ocular ability. Amanotoka Tachi. Kamiyane dragged the progress bar to its limit. 5 minutes ago, when he was hiding in a secluded patch of grass within the village. In the next instant, he vanished before Madara's eyes, disappearing as cleanly as if an eraser had wiped away a pencil mark. Chapter 3, Covert Operation within the Hidden Leaf Village. Kamiyane took advantage of the deserted surroundings and emerged from the grass. He deactivated his Sharingan, and his right eye returned to its usual clarity, with all traces of bloodshot veins completely vanished. It turned out that the target of his temporal reversion was his entire spatio-temporal state, which included not only his spatial coordinates but also his physical health and chakra condition. Except for his consciousness and memories, all aspects of his being reverted to their state from 5 minutes ago. The power of time was truly profound and mysterious. As long as the target of the reversion was himself, he could activate his ocular technique almost without any harm, with chakra consumption infinitely approaching zero. This was also the reason why he could maintain normal vision even after awakening the Mangekyo Sharingan. Kamiyane glanced back at the main gate and, taking advantage of the lack of people, stepped out with light movements. He didn't stir up any trouble and returned to his clan's territory as if nothing had happened, planning to rest until nightfall. The streets were bustling with people, both civilians and shinobi, from various clans seemingly coexisting harmoniously. However, upon seeing him, a member of the Uchiha clan, they all averted their gazes. Kamiyane sneered inwardly. He knew these were all tricks orchestrated by the Senju, aimed at sowing discord within the Uchiha clan, making them obedient and submissive to gain the villagers' approval. But in reality, in the eyes of the higher-ups, a rotten orange was still a rotten orange. No matter how much the Uchiha cooperated or accepted brainwashing and manipulation, they would never be accepted by the Hidden Leaf. He felt increasingly that following Madara's departure was a wise decision. Just look at the fate of the Uchiha in the original timeline. Marginalized, antagonized, divided, incited, and ultimately annihilated by their own people. Only Sasuke remained as the sole survivor. None of the Hokage of the Hidden Leaf ever truly acknowledged the Uchiha clan. Hashirama was somewhat better, but Tobirama, who inherited Tobirama's will, Hiruzen Sarutobi, Denzo Shimura, and the rest of the village's higher-ups were all unscrupulous. As an Uchiha, he might not even live to see the birth of Minato before being secretly killed. But strangely, all the Senju clansmen in the village were new faces, as if those who participated in the war had vanished into thin air. Making those who participated in the war disappear from public view to win over hearts and minds. Kamiyane pondered. The Senju truly had cunning methods. When it came to politics and conspiracies, the Uchiha, with their straightforward nature, could never outmaneuver them. Upon returning to the clan's territory, he ignored the whispering clansmen and went straight to his room. He did a final check of his equipment. Ninja tools, soldier pills, clothing, battle armor, and even a temporary tent. All of which he stored in a storage scroll to carry with him. Strange, where is Kagami? Earlier in the day, after Madara's failed rally, Kamiyane had sought out his younger brother, urging him to leave the Hidden Leaf with Madara. But all he received was a look of panic and confusion, along with words that treated him like a venomous snake. "Brother, why are you trying to destroy the peace we worked so hard to build? Dear brother, I don't know if you're naive or just foolish." Kamiyane lay on his tatami mat, hands behind his head, feigning sleep to conserve energy. The reason he brought up Hikari Uchiha to Madara was partly due to his own selfish motives. It wasn't out of nostalgia for the Boruto Hikari pairing from the original timeline, but because Hikari's abilities were too overpowering. If Madara ever found himself in a desperate situation, he wouldn't need to rely on Kamiyane as a tool. Hikari alone would suffice. Moreover, with Hikari as an ally, even if Madara were to fall, Kamiyane's safety would be greatly assured. As the golden light of the setting sun faded and night quickly fell, Kamiyane opened his eyes and glanced at Kagami, who was sleeping with his back turned to him. He shook his head. He put on his mask, draped his black coat over his shoulders, and slipped out of the room through the window, leaving the clan's territory without a sound. Using his agility and excellent teleportation jutsu, he avoided the night patrols and reached his destination within minutes without being detected. At the entrance of the Hokage building, 2 Senju guards were on duty. Entering the Hokage building at night without being summoned was a serious crime under normal circumstances, but now. Kamiyane silently walked toward the entrance. "Kid, stop. What are you doing wandering around at this hour?" Kamiyane had no intention of wasting words with them. The moment he raised his eyes, his Sharingan activated, the 3 Tomoe spinning slightly. With just a glance, the 2 guards fell into a trance, ensnared by his Ganjutsu. Though he wasn't particularly skilled in Ganjutsu, compared to Itachi and Shizui, his ocular power was at the Mangekyo level, and his hardware was simply too advanced. Dealing with 2 elite guards was still relatively easy. Kamiyane stepped forward, brushing past the guards, and quickly entered the building. He hurried toward the direction of the secret chamber, a layer of light chakra attached to the soles of his feet to dampen sound and minimize any noise. His black coat fluttered as he moved like a ghost racing through the midnight, soon arriving at the entrance to the secret chamber. "You!" The guard at the door was about to shout, but under the red glow of the Sharingan, he immediately lost consciousness. "Ganjutsu, puppet technique," Kamiyane quickly commanded. "Open the chamber." The entrance to the chamber was sealed with a barrier technique, making forced entry impossible. Kamiyane had no knowledge of barrier techniques, but by controlling the Senju guard, he soon opened the chamber. Kamiyane quietly pushed the door open and entered, frowning at the sight of the numerous books and various scrolls. How am I supposed to find anything in this mess? To prevent leaks, most of the scrolls were sealed with intricate barrier techniques, with no titles or labels. Without opening them, it was impossible to know what they contained. Kamiyane turned to the guard and whispered, "You, find me the Warring States sealing history." The guard nodded, his expression blank but obedient, and began searching through the scrolls. "Ganjutsu is so useful. Maybe I should focus more on training it in the future." Kamiyane smiled, hands on his hips. Soon, the guard handed him a red scroll. Kamiyane's eyes flickered as he tested. "Go find me the Flying Thunder God technique." "There is no record of the Flying Thunder God technique in this chamber." The guard replied emotionlessly. "What about the sealing scroll?" "I don't know what that is." Kamiyane scratched the back of his head. Could it be that the sealing scroll hasn't been compiled yet? The so-called sealing scroll was a collection of forbidden techniques compiled by successive Hokage. While that was the official story, most of the forbidden techniques originated from Tobirama, the master inventor. Thinking about it, the Hidden Leaf had only been established for 2 years, and Tobirama was busy with political maneuvering, constantly scheming against Madara. He probably didn't have the time to compile the sealing scroll. In that case, Kamiyane stroked his chin. "Go find me all the S-rank ninjutsu or forbidden techniques in this chamber." The guard nodded mechanically, and after some searching, Kamiyane held 2 more scrolls in his hands. "Only 2? But that's enough. Taking too many would be hard to explain to Madara." Kamiyane felt a surge of excitement. While the rank of a technique corresponded to its difficulty, the harder it was to learn, the more powerful it usually was. He didn't know what forbidden techniques were inside the scrolls, but obtaining them was a win. Fueled by a gambler's mentality, his anticipation was at its peak. Before long, Kamiyane left the Hokage building with his spoils. After incapacitating 3 more patrol guards, he finally approached the main gate of the Hidden Leaf village. Just then, something unexpected happened. Kamiyane's hair stood on end, as if a scythe was hanging over his head. In an instant, the threat of death enveloped him, but before he could react, a cold kunai was pressed against his throat. The moonlight was cool, and the kunai reflected a chilling light, as if it would pierce his throat at any moment. Kamiyane swallowed hard, goosebumps rising on the back of his neck. "Kid, where do you think you're running off to?" A cold voice came from behind him. Kamien's pupils contracted. That deep, resonant voice. Why is he here? Could he have been waiting for me at the gate? In this critical moment, his mind raced. No. My senses couldn't be wrong. I definitely avoided all detection. Unless. His eyes widened as he looked down at his sleeve. Unbeknownst to him, a flying thunder god marking was quietly imprinted there. Chapter 4, Amano Tokatachi. Glancing at the flying thunder god mark on his cuff, Kamien instantly comprehended that he had been betrayed. Who are you? Answer my questions obediently. The kunai slightly moved back, cutting Kamien's skin and causing a few drops of blood to seep out. Kamien's expression turned grave. He thought of a certain possibility, and a surge of anger welled up within him. He forced out a nonchalant tone. I'm going to the restroom. Do you think I'm joking with you? The voice behind him carried a hint of coldness. I originally intended to wait quietly until you left the building, then call the night patrol ninjas to capture you. But you're quite alert, managing to bypass all the guards. Really, even going to the restroom is controlled. Do you have a natural tendency to meddle in others' affairs? Kamien spat out sarcastic words, then suddenly lunged backward. However, the other party's reaction was equally swift. A cold glint flashed, illuminating Kamien's crimson Sharingan eyes. The Sharingan possesses extraordinary insight, capable of observing the flow of chakra and possessing unbelievable dynamic vision. Kamien instantly discerned the trajectory of the kunai. While elbowing the opponent's abdomen, he swiftly leaned backward diagonally. With a whoosh, a line of blood shot from his left cheek, but he narrowly avoided a fatal blow as his mask tore and fell. Seizing the opportunity, he jumped back. During the process, chakra naturally flowed to his legs, enhancing his tendons. In an instant, he created considerable distance, leaving behind a faint afterimage at his original spot. A clear figure came into view. The man wore a grayish-blue coat, his silver hair dancing in the wind. His phoenix eyes were sharp, and his appearance was dignified, with 3 deep red facial marks. It was none other than Dobirama Senju, the younger brother of the current Hokage. Kamien silently clenched his fists, calming down in an instant. He now had 2 options. First, utilize the Amaterasu of his right eye Mangekyo Sharingan to perform a spatial displacement, returning to any position within the last 5 minutes. However, since he was already exposed, if he were to abruptly disappear, Tobirama Senju, with his shrewdness, would instantly detect his spatial time ability. The entire village would then be placed on high alert, making escape even more difficult. Moreover, the village might deploy the Hyuga clan's ninjas to conduct repeated searches. With their Byakugan, they function as long-range spotlights, and Kamien had no confidence in evading their surveillance. Additionally, there was a formidable presence currently in the village. If he were to alert this individual and be apprehended, even Madara Uchiha would find it difficult to rescue him. Therefore, he had no choice but to contend with the person before him, waiting for the right moment to escape the village. Once he reached the outskirts, Madara Uchiha could immediately assist him. In that brief second, numerous thoughts flashed through his mind. Accepting his current predicament, he quickly formulated an escape plan. Uchiha. So it's a little thief from the clan. Obirama coldly scrutinized Kamien. 3 Tomui Sharingan, exceptional teleportation jutsu. I remember now, you're that speedy kid from the Uchiha clan? No wonder your movements are so swift. Obirama-sama, at this point, why keep up the act? Do you really take me for a fool? Kamien sneered as he tore off his outer garment. My plan was flawless. If it weren't for some traitor tipping you off, you wouldn't be here. As soon as he finished speaking, flames ignited in his right hand, reducing the nightwear along with the flying thunder god mark to ashes. Kamien slightly narrowed his eyes, his smile cold and forced. You coming to accompany me to the restroom this late must be thanks to my dear little brother's report. It seems he is genuinely concerned about me. Humphrey, sharp tongue? Obirama glanced at the blood on the kunai, his eyes flickering. I must admit, your skills are impressive. Infiltrating the secret chamber at night, stealing confidential documents. Who's pulling the strings behind you? All thanks to Obirama-sama's excellent training. The skills I possess were all learned on the battlefield. Kamien raised an eyebrow. Obirama snorted. Not planning to talk? No matter, I'll make you spill everything. Where's my dear brother? Worry about yourself first. Hand over the secret scroll and come with me to the prison. Perhaps then I might spare your life. Sorry, not interested. Kamien lightly shook his head. I'm leaving Hidden Leaf Village, severing all ties. Arrogant fool. Do you think Hidden Leaf Village is a place you can come and go as you please? Obirama sneered. Someone actually trying to emulate that man, Madara. Obirama-sama, are you going to stop me? Humphrey, dealing with you doesn't require my effort. As soon as he finished speaking, figures swiftly darted around. Within seconds, over 20 Senju ninjas surrounded Kamiane. Amidst the dense sound of footsteps, Kamiane's gaze froze. He turned to look behind him. At the village entrance, numerous figures emerged, all uniformly dressed. Under the pale moonlight, pairs of crimson eyes coldly stared at him. Uchiha. Brother. A small figure squeezed out from among the Senju clan members. Kagami Uchiha. He shouted to Kamiane. Don't be foolish anymore. You must have been deceived by Madara-sama, right? Me? Being foolish? Kamiane glared at his brother, flames seemingly burning in his eyes. Traitorous scum, still helping those who've sold you out. Have you forgotten how our parents died? Hatred is endless. If we let it spread, the hard-earned peace will crumble. Kagami's eyes brimmed with tears. Madara-sama has already defected. You can't continue down this path. Ha 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 ha. Kamiane, furious, burst into laughter, his fists clenched to the point of cracking. Now, who exactly is betraying whom? Sorry, brother, I really wanted to stop you, but I know I'm no match for you. That's why. Kagami's voice quivered, tears welling up. But rest assured, I've already talked to Obirama-sama. As long as you comply, it won't be long before you're released. Then we can live together in Hidden Leaf Village. Wouldn't that be better? Should I thank you for that? Kamiane trembled with anger, the red in his eyes deepening. Brother. Shut up. Kamiane took a deep breath, sneering. Luckily. I always knew you were a traitor. That's why I didn't tell you everything. Obirama expressionlessly watched Kamiane, impatiently flicking his hand. Take him. The ninjas were about to act, but suddenly, an overwhelming aura burst forth from Kamiane. A dark, heavy chakra, like a blazing yet bone-chilling flame, overflowed from his body. Under Obirama's stunned gaze, Kamiane slowly lifted his head. His black hair moved without wind, the tomoe in his eyes intertwining and transforming, forming intricate black patterns over the crimson pupils. This is Mangekyo Sharingan. Even Obirama couldn't help but shiver under the gaze of those eyes. No, this kid's beyond saving. He must be killed on the spot. Obirama immediately formed hand seals without hesitation. I can't let him become the next Madara. Water style, water severing wave. Obirama's attack was swift and ruthless. A thick stream of water surged forth like a drawn blade, splitting Kamiane's body at the waist. Blood dyed the water red, resembling a massive spider lily blooming within the liquid. Brother. Kagami collapsed to the ground, wailing in anguish. It wasn't supposed to be like this, it shouldn't have been like this. Under the clear moonlight, Kamiane's body seemed to distort for a moment. Blood swirled, and his severed halves rejoined. He stood unharmed, as if nothing had happened. What could it be? Izanagi? Obirama's eyes were filled with disbelief, yet Kamiane's eyes remained perfectly normal, showing no abnormalities. Without needing orders, 3 ninjas immediately lunged at Kamiane. Kamiane fought savagely, unlike typical ninja techniques, resembling a fearless beast. A stark contrast to his harmless appearance. As a blade swung towards his face, he didn't dodge. Instead, he struck the blade side with his palm, allowing the sword to slice into his right shoulder. Ignoring the spurting blood, he drove his knee into his opponent's chin. As the enemy lost consciousness, he swiftly moved behind, cleanly snapping his neck. Swish. A sharp blade swung diagonally from behind, but Kamiane, as if anticipating it, glanced up and vanished, reappearing behind the attacker. His hand blade struck the opponent's wrist, instantly halting the blade. The man involuntarily loosened his grip, and Kamiane seized the sword, spinning and thrusting it into the assailant's neck. At that moment, a cold dagger emerged from Kamiane's chest, causing him to cough up a mouthful of blood. Die. The last attacker, from the Uchiha clan, exploited a blind spot in Kamiane's defense with the Sharingan's keen insight. Why? Why attack me? Kamiane weakly turned his body, disregarding the excruciating pain in his chest, as if wanting to see the attacker's face clearly. The Uchiha ninjas neared. Humphrey, the Uchiha are part of Hidden Leaf Village. A black sheep like you, clinging to your delusions, can't be allowed to live. Kamiane reached out with his arm, firmly gripping the man's shoulder. His gaze, cold as a predator's, sent a chill down the attacker's spine. Serving those who wronged you makes your death meaningless. Kamiane lifted his gaze, the Mangekyo Sharingan glowing red. Ganjutsu, shackling stakes technique. Seizing the moment, he twisted the long sword and, under the attacker's horrified gaze, thrust it into his throat. With a squash, blood gushed forth. Kamiane withdrew the blade. The gear pattern in his right eye slightly rotated, and his body strangely returned to normal. The dagger that had pierced his chest clattered to the ground, his clothes pristine as if untouched. This reality-defying scene sent shivers down the ninja's spines. Impossible. Can't his guy be killed? What the hell is this regenerative ability? Obirama slightly narrowed his eyes, lifting the kunai that had previously injured Kamiyane. To his surprise, the blood stain on it had vanished. This isn't mere regeneration. He clapped his hands together, and water molecules in the air rapidly increased, visibly dampening the surroundings. In an instant, a vast torrent of water materialized out of thin air. Water style, water shock wave. The water surged like a whirlwind. Caught off guard, Kamiyane had an arm, and then his entire body, ensnared and dragged into the vortex. Though only for a moment, Tobirama keenly noticed Kamiyane's left Mangekyo slightly rotating upon being sucked into the water, akin to the hands of a clock. With a roar from the leading Senju ninja, countless kunai and shuriken rained down. Amidst the splashes and the pitter-patter of water droplets, the whirlpool absorbed the blood, rapidly turning crimson under everyone's gaze. After roughly 3 to 5 breaths, the water dissipated, and Kamiyane slowly rose from the ground. Under the cold moonlight, a pair of crimson eyes glimmered with an eerie light. The onlookers could scarcely believe their eyes. The young man remained unscathed, the blood already vanished without a trace, as if everything that had transpired was but an illusion. Chapter 5, Mikharu Kamiyane's hand seals were swift, and the moment he stood up, he initiated his counterattack. Fire style, Great Fireball. The flames erupted as he expelled a massive fireball, akin to the size of an izakaya, with temperatures exceeding 1,000 degrees flowing through the air. The crimson light illuminated the night sky. This brat. How does he possess such a level of chakra? The fireball surged forward, rolling with scorching flames, causing the ground to crack inch by inch, as if even 1,000 troops couldn't halt its advance. Obirama narrowed his eyes and immediately threw the stunned Kagami Uchiha behind him, clapping his hands together with a loud clap. Water style, Water Formation Wall. A waterfall-like amount of water materialized out of thin air, forming a circular water wall that blocked the fireball's path, spinning furiously around Obirama. Fire and water intermingled, instantly generating a massive amount of steam in the air. Kamiyane unfurled a scroll and retrieved a new long sword. Holding both swords level, as the fire-style chakra infused the hilts, the blades immediately ignited with bright flames, resembling 2 crimson torches. Uchiharu, Ken 1. His figure vanished from the spot. The onlookers' vision was obstructed, and in a fleeting moment, they saw a shadowy figure charging towards the village entrance, where the Uchiha ninjas were stationed, followed by a series of muffled groans. It was you who dragged me into this battlefield. A flash of the blade, and blood splattered. And it was you who forced me to fight for my life. The deadly flames of the blade flickered in and out of sight. Kamiyane, like a reaper in the mist, had molten lava-like light flowing in his crimson eyes. Now, it is still you who seeks to annihilate me. His speed was too fast, he continuously released the teleportation jutsu, relying on the innate suppression power of the Mangekyo Sharingan. No one could withstand a single blow from him. Screams and pleas for mercy vanished in an instant. Damn it, this guy actually. How is this possible? Help, save. And the Senju clan, are they just going to watch? Kamiyane. We're clanmates. No. Ugh. Kamiyane's gaze was icy cold. At this moment, he was like an emotionless killing machine. Wielding dual swords, he spun at high speed, using his body as the axis, resembling a burning whirlwind. With each flash, a ninja was cut to pieces, and bright red blood sprayed in all directions. By the time everyone reacted, the majority of the Uchiha clan members on the field had been slaughtered. Wind style, Great Breakthrough. The roaring wind finally dispersed the mist as someone used the wind style technique. At that moment, the water wall began to bubble vigorously, and as the heat spread, the fireball was successfully extinguished. Water style, Water Severing Wave. Tobirama's hand seals changed, and the remaining water rapidly expanded, flooding Kamiyane's feet in an instant. Kamiyane immediately jumped, but a strong suction force from the water surface below pulled him into a massive whirlpool. Like a flood surging backward, the water converged at its highest point, forming a colossal water dragon that plummeted downward. Boom! The torrential water waves surged in all directions, the ground collapsed, and even the surrounding houses were swept away by the water. Obirama's eyes slightly contracted as Kamiyane's figure reappeared in his vision. This time, Kamiyane was drenched but without a single wound, except for his right arm, which was twisted at an odd angle. In the blink of an eye, he returned to his unscathed state, his clothes dry, and his gaze sharp. Obirama's expression turned grave. He noticed Kamiyane's left eye rotate again, albeit slightly, but it was enough for him to catch. Somehow, A chilling sensation flickered in his heart, causing him to freeze momentarily. What's going on? An illusion? Why am I suddenly feeling tense about this kid? Lightning style, full starkness. Kamiyane discarded the broken sword hilt and raised his hand high. Lightning swirled around his palm, and a thunderous roar echoed across the land, lighting up the night sky once more. In the moist air, the conductivity of the lightning was optimized. The electric arcs crackled fiercely, threatening to engulf everyone. Several quick-reacting Jonin immediately formed hand seals. Wind style, Karuden. Wind style, Great Breakthrough. Wind style, Vacuum Wave. The lightning flickered and dissipated. This single lightning style technique required 3 wind style ninjas to barely withstand it. He's an Uchiha, but where does such an exaggerated amount of chakra come from? Tobirama's brows furrowed as he pondered. An excellent sensory ninja, he was highly sensitive to a person's chakra amount and chakra intensity. This brat's chakra wasn't particularly abundant, yet after releasing 2 large-scale ninjutsu in succession, he remained unruffled and still had energy to spare. Fire style, Rage of Sages, Flame of Phoenixes. Kamiyane launched an offensive, firing a barrage of flames that vaguely enveloped everyone. Senju ninjas each employed their means, some releasing water-style techniques, others dodging swiftly. However, the flames, like touch-sensitive seeds of morning glories, scattered in all directions. Moreover, under Kamiyane's control, the flames seemed to possess a homing function, making it not so easy to completely avoid them. 2 unfortunate souls were entangled in the crimson flames, emitting agonizing screams. The encirclement began to falter. Taking advantage of the lingering mist, Kamiyane immediately retreated towards the village entrance. Tenno Chito granted him a unique period of invincibility. Whenever his body sustained damage, fell into an abnormal state, consumed excessive chakra, or was at a disadvantage, he would revert his temporal status to the moment before the damage. Thus, both his health and chakra reserves would be refreshed, maintaining peak condition. From the moment he activated his Jujutsu, a 5-minute timeline commenced. After the reversion, as long as he wasn't harmed again within the next second, even the 5-minute timeline would refresh. Meeting this condition would keep him invincible. Suddenly, a whizzing sound came from behind. Kamiyane, as if foreseeing it, tilted his head, and a fast-flying kunai grazed his right cheek. Kamiyane's pupils slightly contracted. His powerful dynamic vision allowed him to catch the flying thunder god mark etched on the base of the kunai. In the next instant, Tobirama's figure appeared abruptly beside him, gripping a kunai in reverse, and without hesitation, thrust it fiercely towards Kamiyane's neck. Hiroshin no Renden. At that instant, Kamiyane's lips curved slightly, and from an eerie angle, his hand lashed out. Snap. Catching Tobirama's wrist firmly. I've been waiting for you, Tobirama-sama. Tobirama was inwardly astonished. Kamiyane's reaction was alarmingly quick, able to match his speed instantly. His wrist felt as if gripped by iron pincers, the kunai in his arm like were trapped as if in quicksand, unable to move an inch. However, Tobirama swiftly adapted. With one hand forming a seal, a massive surge of water flowed along Kamiyane's arm, swiftly enveloping his entire body into a colossal water sphere. Water style, water-severing wave, yet it didn't end there. He puffed his cheeks once more. Water style, Tenshui. 3 fine water needles pierced through the air, akin to raindrops falling from the sky, instantly penetrating the water sphere, causing ripples. The water needles moved at an incredible speed, almost invisible within the sphere, subtle yet swift, targeting Kamiyane's eyes and forehead. Right then, Kamiyane raised his right hand. Solidified chakra cloaked his entire palm, and with a swift swing, a streak of icy blue light flashed past. All 3 water needles shattered simultaneously, and the water sphere split into 2 halves, like a watermelon sliced by a blade, spilling across the ground. The blade's gleam was unstoppable. Under Tobirama's startled gaze, his body was torn apart, blood splattered, severed in 2. During the initial water-style attack, Kamiyane had already activated his left eye's Muso, beginning to adapt to Tobirama's water-style techniques. Through repeated attacks, the adaptation gradually completed, and the countermeasure derived from the analysis was the stunning appearance of this chakra blade. His chakra blade could not only adjust its density through output intensity but could also simulate the flow of water, penetrating everywhere while endowing it with formidable cutting capability. In effect, it seemed similar to a knee-rank medical ninjutsu. Chakra scalpel. But the difference was that Kamiyane could control the length and sharpness of the chakra blade at will, truly enabling it to slice through water. Regardless of the water's force or the sharpness of the water needles, the blade's light would sever them all, rendering them ineffective. It was worth noting that his immunity effect was confined to Tobirama's water-style techniques, but the countermeasure learned through adaptation was a permanently ingrained skill. This was his left eye Mangekyo's Jujutsu. Mangekyo at Obirama's body crashed to the ground. Poof! Turning into a puff of white smoke. Shadow clone? Kamien's brow furrowed slightly. Not far off, Tobirama stared warily at the youth within the mist. Thankfully, he had used a shadow clone to test the waters, or he would have really been in trouble. He broke through the water prison from within. Moreover, my water style's effectiveness weakened each time. Could this be the ability of his left eye? As he analyzed, his brows knitted together. From the initial 3 tomoe to the teleportation jutsu, and now this troublesome Mangekyo jutsu. The more they fought, the more alarmed he became, firmly resolving not to let this brat leave alive. Though only several minutes had passed in combat, the successive large-scale ninjutsu releases had already caused quite a stir, and more ninjas were arriving at the scene. Kamien slightly lowered his head, avoiding an attack, while simultaneously forming a knife hand. The radiant blue chakra blade sliced through the air with no resistance, plunging into the opponent's abdomen. Slash! Blood sprayed. The scene was brutally graphic. The horrifying power even made Kamien, the wielder, inwardly nervous, and he couldn't help but glance at the chakra blade in his hand. Solid chakra emanated from his palm, forming a stable and sturdy light blade. The chakra inside surged like water at a speed invisible to the naked eye, quietly forming a closed circuit. Learned something good. Since it was acquired here, I'll call it. Kamien's lips curved upward. Tsuno Akitsu. However, he looked at the growing number of ninjas. Time is running out, must break through at full strength. Meanwhile, Tobirama had completed a preliminary analysis of Kamien's abilities. My proficiency in water-style ninjutsu being ineffective does not imply that other ninjutsu will also be ineffective. At the same moment, he should only be able to immunize against one attribute, so. His expression was cold and stern, his deep voice echoing throughout the entire area. Everyone, do not engage him in close combat, attack him simultaneously with long-range ninjutsu. The ninjas accepted the order and quickly distanced themselves. In an instant, Kamien's pupils reflected countless hand seals. Lightning style, earth flow. Earth style, earth dragon bullet. Fire style, fire dragon flame bullet. Wind style, vacuum great sphere. For a moment, wind, fire, thunder, and lightning raged across the sky, and countless ninjutsu poured down like rain. Kamien's eyes were also illuminated by the light. Only 1 minute left, I can't waste time with them like this. His gaze remained calm. There's no other way, then it can only be. The third power, Susanoo. A thick plume of black aura projected from his body, as if black flames had ignited, accompanied by a fierce gale. In an instant, a jet-black skeleton took form, exuding a heavy and solid presence with an obsidian-like texture. 2 enormous skeletal hands extended from the black aura, and with just a slight wave, they deflected the majority of the ninjutsu. Then, a deafening and mighty roar erupted, its sonic wave generating a shockwave that dissolved all the ninjutsu completely. Everyone's eyes widened, all of them shocked by the scene before them. Some even froze in place, their hearts pounding intensely. The colossal black skeleton enveloped Kamien completely, like an undead specter emerging from the abyss. Although only its upper body was visible, it still exuded an overwhelmingly domineering aura, as if it could annihilate everything with a mere movement. Those who stand in my way, die. Kamien uttered these icy words, blood slowly trickling down his delicate face. The black aura turned like war banners, and in this moment, he resembled an invincible battle god clad in dark armor, standing tall and unyielding. Chapter 6, The Moon at its fullest at the entrance of Hidden Leaf Village. Kamien was immersed in black mist, with 2 Mangekyo Sharingan eyes emitting an eerie red light. With a simple thought, Susanoo's massive hand swung forth, grabbing a ninja who had no time to retreat. Die. The bony hand, as massive and powerful as a machine, clenched slightly, and blood mist burst from between its fingers with a puff, leaving only bone fragments and minced flesh falling like rain. Damn it. Kill him. That evil Chiha brat. Die. The crowd was furious, and the second wave of ninjutsu attacks came pouring in, mixed with countless explosive tags and kunai. Boom. 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 Kamien ignored the overwhelming barrage of attacks, stepping back 1 step at a time. Susanoo followed him, moving outward. The giant skeleton, as if cast from divine iron, remained immovable even under the relentless bombardment. When the smoke cleared, the black skeleton was completely unscathed, not even a hint of its black aura diminished, let alone Kamien inside. In contrast, the attacks from the Hidden Leaf Village ninjas seemed feeble, like a gentle drizzle, unable to stir even a ripple. Kamien controlled Susanoo to throw a punch, and with a boom, the gate of Hidden Leaf Village instantly disintegrated, shattered wood and stones scattering everywhere. Try this. He formed hand seals within Susanoo. Fire style, great fireball. Twin style. The black skeleton opened its bony hands, and scorching air rose, as two massive fireballs formed in its palms, engulfing the entire area in high heat. Susanoo wielded the fireballs as weapons, swinging and pressing them forward. Crimson flames filled the sky, and screams from the crowd merged into one. No one could withstand such an attack. Obirama attempted to extinguish the flames with his grand waterfall technique, but his water style disintegrated before it even reached Susanoo, leaving only splashing droplets. As if it had encountered something inviolable. Completely immune to my water style, huh? He spat. What a troublesome ability. With Susanoo, Kamiyane overpowered everyone and quickly broke out of Hidden Leaf Village, but the ninjas behind him continued to chase relentlessly. Gritting his teeth, Kamiyane's bloodshot eyes flashed with ruthlessness. The giant skeleton twisted its body, building momentum like a crazed ape, and hurled the fireballs in its hands. Whoosh! Whoosh! The two fireballs, one after the other, trailed scorching paths as they shot straight toward Hidden Leaf Village. Enhanced by Susanoo's immense strength, no one could stop the fireball's impact. The ground was plowed open, forming two straight, long lines. Cunning brat. Obirama, enraged, clasped his hands, ready to form the Earth-style hand seal. At that moment, a deep, powerful voice resonated from within the village. Summoning technique, quintuple Rashomon. Thud. 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 5 massive gates of different colors burst forth from the ground one after another. The gates were carved with vivid demon faces, symbolizing death and hell, stirring up a cloud of dust. The fireballs slammed into the first gate, the impact and flames spreading in all directions, followed by the second fireball. Boom. Crash. The Rashomon gates shattered and collapsed. After smashing through the fourth gate, the fireballs finally lost their momentum, dissipating slowly in the air. Amid the rising white smoke, a tall, white-clad figure descended from the sky, landing with a thunderous crash in front of Hidden Leaf Village, exuding an aura of majesty and authority. Hokage-sama. Lord Hashirama. Clan leader, you've finally arrived. Cheers erupted from the crowd. At the sight of this figure, everyone felt a sense of relief. Even Obirama was no exception. Brother, you're here. Yes. Hashirama nodded, his gaze sharpening as he looked at Kamiyane within Susanoo. This farce must end. Kamiyane let out a light chuckle. Lord Hashirama, aren't you even going to ask who I am? All I know is that you are a destroyer. Hashirama said coldly. I will never forgive anyone who opposes the village. I wasn't the one who started the killing. TCH. Kamiyane's words were cut short as Hashirama began forming hand seals. Wood style, wood dragon technique. The earth cracked, and a massive wooden dragon coiled forth, its size no less imposing than Kamiyane's initial form of Susanoo. The ground shook violently as the wooden dragon's massive maw lunged toward Kamiyane. Surprisingly, Kamiyane shook his head and smiled, voluntarily dispelling Susanoo. The skeletal half-body dissipated into black mist, and he closed his eyes, seemingly resigned to his fate, waiting for death. At that very moment, an even thicker blue arm emerged from the side, grabbing the wooden dragon's neck and preventing it from advancing, no matter how it writhed. The wind howled as another massive hand gently grasped Kamiyane's body, pulling him back to stand behind someone. Hashirama stared blankly at the figure, silently lowering his hands, and the wooden dragon ceased its struggle, crashing to the ground. The blue skeleton vanished bit by bit, revealing a man with arms crossed, black hair fluttering in the wind, standing tall amidst the chaos. Madara Uchiha. Seeing Madara's timely rescue, Kamiyane finally let out a quiet sigh of relief, seizing the moment to activate the power of his right eye, silently restoring himself to his peak condition. At this point, only 15 seconds remained before the timeline limit. Beyond this, he could only revert to his injured state. However, he had been cautious, limiting the restoration to his physical condition alone, not including his clothing or chakra reserves. So he still appeared battered, as if he had just emerged from a fierce battle. In reality, however, he was fully energized and unharmed. After all, with Madara present, he needed to maintain the facade. As Madara and Hashirama began to confront each other, Kamiyane quickly deactivated his Sharingan, his eyes turning pitch black. Activating Susanoo had drained his ocular power at an alarming rate, causing his entire body's cells to ache faintly. No wonder Sasuke from the original timeline had gone blind after using it for a short time. Fortunately, Amano Tokatachi allowed him to avoid this issue to the greatest extent, but it also meant that he couldn't engage in prolonged battles. The fight had to be concluded within 5 minutes, or else he wouldn't be able to emerge unscathed. Madara, what exactly are you trying to do? Hashirama asked solemnly. Clearly, he had linked Kamiyane's actions directly to Madara. I am here to retrieve my disciple. Madara said, flicking his sleeve as he shielded Kamiyane behind him. What? He's your disciple? Hashirama frowned, his gaze shifting to Kamiane. With a displeased expression, he said. Do you have any idea how many of our comrades he just killed? Your comrades? If they're dead, then they're dead. Madara said with a look of disdain. Hashirama took a step forward, his expression both conflicted and pained. Madara, what exactly are you trying to achieve? I already agreed to let you take the position of the second Hokage. He paused, not wanting to appear weak in front of everyone, especially with his sharp-eyed younger brother behind him. Come back. He finally managed to say after a long pause. Madara maintained his cold arrogance. I've already told you before, I've begun to doubt your path. I left Hidden Leaf Village to verify whether your way is correct. Must I repeat myself? Madara, sigh, you're still the same as always, impossible to persuade. Hashirama sighed helplessly. At the very least, leave the child here. Madara lifted his chin. Out of the question. Kamiane is my clansman, my only acknowledged successor, and also my true friend. Let go of your delusions. He has killed many people. Hashirama's gaze turned sharp. Your clansmen are all in Hidden Leaf Village. Why are you defending a murderer? Ha ha ha, a murderer? How laughable that those words would come from your mouth. Madara laughed heartily. Am I not a murderer? You, and Tobiramo behind you. Aren't you both murderers? The fools in the village no longer deserve the Uchiha name. I refuse to acknowledge such ignorant clansmen. Madara glared coldly at the heavily injured Uchiha clansman behind Hashirama. Madara, stop being unreasonable. You know I won't let that child go. You've already taken my closest friend from me. Now you want to take another? Madara's face twisted slightly. Hashirama froze, his killing intent faltering. What? I'm taking him with me today. Anyone who dares to stop me can try. Madara said, turning and walking away with Kamiane in tow. Hashirama remained rooted in place, Madara's words echoing in his mind. The crowd exchanged uneasy glances. With the Hokage not making a move, the lesser ninjas dared not speak up. Tobirama stepped to Hashirama's side, looking anxious. Brother. Hashirama ignored him, calling out into the distance. Madara. Can you still not let go of Izuna? Madara paused, a sorrowful smile on his face. Hashirama, the closest friend I spoke of. Izu. The cool night breeze scattered the smoke, but Hashirama's heart remained unsettled for a long time. Brother. Kagami Uchiha lay weakly on the ground, his small face dirty with tears. He watched his brother's back as it grew farther away, his young face filled with bitterness. Tobirama happened to glance at Kagami and was startled to find that the boy's eyes had turned a blood-red color, with two tomoe clearly visible. At that moment, the moon was at its fullest. Chapter 7, Then It's Up to You. In a dense forest, Kamiane and Madara were swiftly heading northwest towards the Land of Fire. Their objective was clear, as they had evidently learned the location where Hikaru Uchiha was once sealed. Madara held a red scroll, precisely the Warring States sealing history, which Kamiane had painstakingly acquired. It seems aside from the nameless ones, the Senju and Uzumaki clans have indeed sealed quite a few things, he remarked while skimming through the scroll as they hurried along. Kamiane chimed in, the breeze sweeping his black hair into a slicked-back style. I wonder what your thoughts are, Lord Madara? I find the Paradise Box quite intriguing. According to records, it's a legendary tool of the Sage of Six Paths. Trivial matters. True strength lies in one's own power. Madara replied, closing the scroll with a soft snort. Not just mere tools, but even the power of the Sage of Six Paths is not beyond reach. The power of the Sage of Six Paths. Kamiane murmured, lost in thought. He knew exactly what Madara was referring to. The combined power of the Senju and Uchiha, embodying the force of their ancestor, Kaguya Otsutsuki. In the basement of the Naka Shrine lies an ancient stone tablet, a cherished heirloom passed down through generations of our clan. It details the method to obtain the Sage of Six Paths power, but the inscriptions are encrypted. The higher the level of the Sharingan, the more one can decipher. Madara glanced at him. You're aware of this, aren't you? Kamiane nodded. After awakening the Mangekyo Sharingan, I had the privilege to examine the tablet. It seems you've already figured out how to unlock the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. I must remind you, though your ocular abilities are unique, it's still not the eternal eye. Using it carries the risk of blindness and a host of side effects. Madara hinted. I understand, Lord Madara. Kamiane replied softly. When the time is right, I will act. Well, no need to belabor the point. Madara smiled, casually inquiring. How long have you had the Mangekyo? Counting the time, it's been over 3 years. Kamiane responded, his gaze distant with reminiscence. Witnessing the death of his childhood friend, he had accidentally awakened his Sharingan at the tender age of 4. Amidst the chaos of war, he was quickly conscripted by the clan. Given his sword and clad in armor, he was thrust onto the battlefield. What combat prowess could a 4-year-old possess? With a Sharingan, his only advantage was slight agility. Survival itself was already a challenge. He still vividly remembered his first experience on the battlefield. It was his second encounter with death, starkly different from the first. While illness had claimed his friend, it was swords that took lives on the battlefield. The ground was smeared with corpses and blood, the air thick with the stench of iron. Cries of slaughter and screams of agony mingled, shattering the very soul. A fellow clansman gave him a thumbs up, praising his calmness amidst the carnage at such a young age. Only Kamiane knew he was petrified with fear. However, that clansman would never learn the truth, for the next day, he, too, became a lifeless corpse. To survive, one must grow stronger. War is a meat grinder, and surrounded by slaughter and death, his Sharingan quickly evolved to the 3-Tomoe form. His parents, kind-hearted and without shinobi talents but proficient in medicine, opened a clinic to pray for their son's safety, offering free treatment to injured clansmen. Over time, their home became a temporary infirmary for the Uchiha shinobi. This raised Kamiane's acute concern. He repeatedly warned them of the risks of being entangled in the war. Yet, their determination was unwavering, and with the clinic's fame spreading, they couldn't turn away the continuous stream of wounded. A year later, while engaged in battle, Kamiane sensed an ominous premonition, as if some grave event was imminent. He unleashed his full power, swiftly ending the fight, but upon reaching home, he found his parents lifeless and his younger brother, Kagami Uchiha, lying in a pool of blood. At that moment, negative emotions surged to their peak. Boundless rage and regret erupted as he howled skyward, grief-stricken, feeling as if his chest would burst. Blood veins filled his eyes, an innate coldness permeated his entire being, and it was in this instant that the Mangekyo Sharingan awakened. Known as the eyes that reflect the heart. At the moment of the Mangekyo's awakening, ocular abilities are born from the user's intense desires and needs. Corresponding to his hatred and remorse. Makerad and Alman no Tokatachi were thus born. He recklessly activated his ocular powers, attempting to reverse time, but his parents had long passed. However, his brother Kagami Uchiha, right at the critical 5-minute mark, miraculously regained consciousness, his wounds fully healed, under the effect of temporal reversal. Snapping back to reality, Kamiane shook his head, trying to dispel the torrent of tangled thoughts. Soon, they halted beside a low, rocky outcrop guarded by 2 shinobi, the Senju clan's crest engraved on the stone wall behind them. It seems this is the place. Madara walked over without the slightest intention of concealing his presence, and Kamiane had no choice but to follow. Halt. This is a heavily sealed area. Unauthorized personnel, retreat immediately. Kamiane narrowed his eyes slightly. The 2 men before him had fierce gazes, and their bodies were enveloped in a faint yet discernible murderous aura, clearly having undergone numerous bloody trials. Senju and Sarutobi. He noticed the emblems on the 2 men and sneered coldly. So they've sent the ninjas who participated in the battle back then here, huh? He is Madara Uchiha. The 2 Hidden Leaf Village ninjas recognized the identity of Madara-sama and were immediately on high alert. Madara-sama, these 2 slaughtered many of our clansmen back then. Kamiane said in a low voice. We cannot let them go. Is that so? Then leave them to you. Madara replied, seemingly unwilling to intervene himself, and casually found a boulder to sit on, as calm and composed as an old sage. Without any unnecessary words, Kamiane's foot hit the ground, and his figure shot forward like an arrow. You damn brat, how dare you look down on us? The Senju ninja at the front roared, swiftly drawing his long blade. However, Kamiane instantly activated his Sharingan, the 3-Tomoe transforming into a swirling vortex, seemingly possessing a soul-snatching allure. The ninja merely glanced at it and became deeply entranced, unable to break free. Leaf on autumn dew. Kamiane's right hand gathered chakra, quickly forming a segment of ice blue light blade, leaving a dazzling trail in the air. Idiot, don't look into his eyes. At the critical moment, his Sarutobi clan companion yanked him backward. The light blade hissed past, instantly slicing open the man's clothing and leaving a straight blood trail on his skin. With the first strike missing, Kamiane immediately charged at the other man, thrusting the paper-thin light blade toward his face. The Sarutobi ninja clearly had extensive combat experience. Facing the Uchiha's Sharingan, he skillfully avoided eye contact, and even without looking at Kamiane's face, he was able to calmly counter the attacks. But the Sharingan's abilities were not limited to Genjutsu, it also enhanced Taijutsu. After just 2 exchanges, Kamiane had predicted his movements, and the kunai was sliced in half by the chakra blade. Kamiane spun around, delivering a precise and tricky midair kick that landed squarely on the Sarutobi ninja's abdomen. Boom. The Sarutobi ninja took the blow head-on but used the momentum to create distance. As his body flew backward, he completed his hand seals. Fire style, great flame technique. Crimson flame surged forward, painting the entire field of vision red. Kamien didn't even have time to swing his chakra blade before he was engulfed by the flames. Got him. The Sarutobi ninja's eyes flashed with excitement. He was about to release his companion from the Genjutsu when suddenly, a figure burst out of the flames at an astonishing speed. Not good. He's trying to take me down with him. The Sarutobi ninja was horrified, wanting to dodge but already too late. Kamien's entire body was ablaze, his black clothes and hair wreathed in flames and smoke. His cheeks were burned, revealing tender, red flesh, but his eyes were radiant, his pupils now transformed into intricate Mangekyo patterns. He seemed utterly unfazed by his injuries. Using the teleportation jutsu in tandem with the leaf on autumn dew, its blue light tearing through the air, he instantly bisected the terrified Sarutobi ninja. The ninja let out a horrifying scream, the last seen in his vision being Kamien's unscathed body. How is this possible? He couldn't comprehend it, dying with deep resentment. Kamien walked over to the Senju ninja, swung the light blade, and cleanly severed his head. A spray of hot blood scattered in the wind. From the moment he was trapped in the Genjutsu, his fate was sealed in defeat. Chapter 8, Uchihaku Kamien. The battle concluded swiftly. Kamien expertly arranged the corpses of the Hidden Leaf Village shinobi together and incinerated them into ashes with a single fireball. Shinobi combat is, after all, also a battle of intelligence. Destroying the bodies and erasing traces can maximize the concealment of one's own information. Even corpses can be used by shinobi to extract intelligence. At this moment, Madara approached. I've watched your battles yesterday and today. Humphrey, I must say, you rely too heavily on your ocular abilities. He commented, seemingly somewhat dissatisfied. Ah. I'd like to hear the details. Kamien immediately became reserved. Whether it's ninjutsu or taijutsu, they are all too crude. Not only is your fighting style lacking in elegance, but you also rely solely on the information gap to win battles. Such an approach will never make you a true powerhouse. Madara shook his head. With your current fighting style, if you can't achieve an instant kill on the first encounter, you'll definitely suffer greatly in your next battle. Kamien broke into a cold sweat. Madara's critique was sharp and to the point. His foundations were indeed weak. He had barely trained before being thrown onto the battlefield, and his fierce and brutal fighting style had been honed in the heat of combat. After awakening the Mangekyo Sharingan, he had taken this all-or-nothing approach to the extreme. In summary, while the Mangekyo Sharingan granted him god-tier abilities and allowed him to grow powerful rapidly, it also led him astray. Focusing solely on killing efficiency while neglecting fundamental training. It must be understood that truly formidable techniques are built up through meticulous effort and accumulation of details over time. Take Might Gay from the original timeline as an example. His awe-inspiring kick that almost ended the entire war. Was it solely due to the 8 gates? No, the 8 gates merely amplified his physical capabilities to an extreme degree. The true strength still lay within Gay himself. If not for decades of relentless training and meticulous refinement of his body, how could he have gained power far surpassing the 5 Kage after opening the 8th gate? How could Night Gay possess such devastating force capable of overwhelming even 6 paths level opponents? Without accumulating small steps, one cannot traverse 1,000 miles, without gathering small streams, one cannot form a vast river or sea. This principle holds true in all aspects. Taijutsu is not about brute force and aggression. The key lies in the control of details. Ninjutsu is not about merely unleashing chakra to increase its power. Madara's critique continued, and by the end, he shook his head and said, "Forget it. Since you're still young and haven't completely gone down the wrong path, I'll give you some guidance." Kamien was both startled and delighted, his eyes sparkling as if filled with starlight. "Judging from your fighting style, you're bold yet meticulous. That chakra blade technique of yours also proves you have the talent for precise chakra control. Humphrey, you could indeed be considered a promising candidate." Madara raised his chin. "So, are you willing to endure my tempering?" "I am willing." Kamien nodded immediately, like a chick pecking at rice. After clearing the battlefield, Kamien looked ahead at the stone wall, where a complex and esoteric ceiling formula came into view. He wisely stepped aside to make room for Madara. Madara placed his fingers on the stone wall and murmured, "Ceiling space-time. I see." Kamien was excited. He hadn't expected Madara-sama's sealing techniques to be so formidable. Just as he was eagerly anticipating how Madara would undo the seal, a sea blue light suddenly flashed across his eyes. Boom! Madara activated the initial form of Susanoo. As the massive blue fist swung out, The stone wall instantly shattered. Amid the billowing dust, the ceiling formula was also obliterated. Kamiyane stared blankly. What are you looking at? Madara glanced at Kamiyane, crossing his arms. As long as the medium is destroyed, even the strongest sealing technique becomes ineffective. The rubble continued to fall, and as the dust settled, a dark, gaping hole appeared before the two of them. Fire style, ignite. Kamiyane snapped his fingers crisply. The air above his fingertips twisted slightly, and a wisp of flame ignited out of thin air, quickly expanding into a palm-sized fireball. Under the illumination of the firelight, the situation inside the cave became clearly visible. Oh? Mastery of fire style to this extent? Madara stared at Kamiyane's manipulation, slightly surprised. Generally, ninjas can regulate the flow of chakra by hand seals, applying it inside or outside the body, which is called jutsu. The ancestor of the Uchiha, Indra, once established 12 basic hand seals, which have been passed down and benefited the entire ninja world. However, for ninjas proficient in a certain jutsu or nature transformation, as their bodies are already familiar with the chakra's flow, they can simplify the sealing process. Those with exceptional talent can even perform jutsus instantly without forming seals. Kamiyane held a fireball ahead. The innermost part of the cave was a spacious open area, where a pattern resembling a formation in ink was dissipating in circles. It's underground, came Madara's voice from behind. Kamiyane nodded, seeing Madara not making any move. He tactfully began forming seals, pressing one hand on the ground. Earth style, earth flow wave. A peculiar fluctuation spread in all directions, centered around Kamiyane's palm. The soil turned a layer at a time, flowing like a small stream. Kamiyane's chakra possesses 6 attributes: wind, fire, water, earth, lightning, and yin. Although he is not skilled in many jutsus, they are all practical, such as fire and lightning styles focused on attack, earth style for defense and assistance, all serving for combat and survival. Soon, a shallow pit appeared on the ground, inside which a black-haired girl was crouching, hugging her knees. She was petite, dressed in ragged black clothes, her long hair like silk spread on the ground, resembling a lonely lily. Sensing the airflow and the faint warmth of the firelight, she shivered slightly and slowly raised her head. Uchiha Nameless, from today onwards, you are free. A fair hand stretched forward, extending to her. She looked up, her dark eyes reflecting a gentle and handsome face. You are? Who? Why? Why release me? She tilted her head in confusion, her voice soft and melodious, like a swaying wind chime. Like you, I was abandoned. As for the reason for releasing you, you can consider it as seeking warmth together. Kamiyane smiled. In the warm firelight, his eyes were as gentle as jade, his faint smile seemed capable of exuding sunlight. In short, you never have to stay in this dark place again. Unconditionally. She hesitated. But why? Why would you save someone like me for no reason? What, have you resigned to your fate? Kamiyane looked into her eyes, recalling Boruto's lines from the original timeline, his voice filled with determination. Don't lose to the fate decided by others, decide it yourself, create it yourself, this is your destiny. For a moment, a ripple stirred in her gaze, as if a stone had been dropped into a clear lake, creating gentle ripples. She stared blankly at the youth before her. In the dark seal, she couldn't even sense the passage of time, her long emptiness had almost annihilated her emotions, leaving only endless hatred and layers of ice built up in her heart. But now, these layers of ice were melting, one by one. As if by a ghost's hand, Nameless, or rather Hikari Uchiha, grasped Kamiyane's hand, allowing him to pull her up. Kamiyane unintentionally measured her height with his eyes. She was half a head taller than him. She appeared to be about 12 years old, probably frozen at the age she was sealed, her features beautifully painted, her eyes clear like autumn water, her face a soft oval, her features perfectly proportioned, though a bit dirty, her elegance was hard to conceal. Her black clan clothes were tattered, her slender white feet exposed without shoes, only rough bandages wrapped around her ankles. The moment she stepped out of the cave, the blinding sunlight illuminated her pale cheeks, making her squint uncomfortably. She raised her hand to shade her forehead, gradually moving out of the cave, as if the last time she walked in the sunlight was a long, long time ago. This is Nameless. Madara also observed her. After a while, she finally adapted slightly to the light, her vision slowly focusing, Kamiyane's back figure becoming increasingly clear, until a familiar Fan Clan emblem came into her sight. Chapter 9, Sudden Outburst and Strike Uchiha. This emblem awakened her dormant memories, scenes of the past flashed before her eyes, depicting her battles on the battlefield. The cold commands of her clansmen, the mournful wails of enemies, seemed to once again echo in her ears. You are from the Uchiha clan? As if some chain reaction had been triggered, Her eyes widened in a startled manner, and her pupils in an instant transformed into the somber kaleidoscope of the Mangekyo. Amaterasu. Thin blood vessels burst from her right eye. A pitch-black flame ignited on Kamiane's back, spreading all over his body in the blink of an eye. Holy crap! Kamiane screamed, shaking off Nameless's hand, and instinctively activated the teleportation jutsu, darting out more than 10 meters in an instant, resembling a monkey with its tail on fire. Nameless rotated her eyes, and with a whoosh, Madara Uchiha beside her was also immediately engulfed in the black flames. Blood oozed from her eye sockets, streaming down Nameless's face. Her originally delicate and gentle visage now appeared fierce and menacing. "I'm burning up." Kamiane let out an undignified scream. Amaterasu, known as the black flame that can incinerate anything, will never extinguish until its target is completely burned. Its temperature was terrifyingly high. Kamiane's clothes dissolved like marshmallows in water. In less than a second, the skin on his back began to rapidly carbonize, and excruciating pain continuously stimulated his nerves. He had never anticipated that the seemingly docile Uchiha Nameless would betray him and launch a sudden attack. But his mind had no time to dwell on that. Years of combat experience had honed his reflexes to extreme sensitivity. The moment he was injured, his eyes emitted a red glare, and the Mangekyo in both eyes began to rotate simultaneously. Finally, summoning the last shred of reason, he rewound his entire state to 2 seconds prior. The black flames instantly extinguished as if they had never existed, and his body returned to its original condition. Madara Uchiha also effortlessly neutralized Amaterasu. A blue skeletal frame enveloped his body, blocking the flames entirely, and both the frame and the flames dissipated together. Seizing the opportunity, Nameless pounced forward, her left eye's Mangekyo spinning eerily, locking gazes with Madara's cold, indifferent eyes. "Tsukami." Madara looked around, and the surroundings dramatically changed. The world was now bathed in a sea of blood red. The forest that once existed was no more, replaced by a battlefield littered with corpses. Massive torii gates sprang up one after another from the ground, encircling Madara completely. Countless figures of Senju ninjas emerged from the torii gates, their cold stares fixed on the figure in the center. Bloodthirsty, they moved forward, their swords gleaming with a chilling light. The fear of death permeated every inch of the air. An ordinary person would have been scared out of their wits just standing there. But the man in the center was Madara Uchiha. Is this your understanding of despair? Not only did Madara show no sign of discomfort, but he also displayed a look of disdain. "Little girl, a real battlefield is 10 times more gruesome than this. Your illusion can't even rouse my fighting spirit." As the Senju ninjas charged towards him, he shook his head and let out a low chuckle. "Fine, let me give you a proper lesson." He slightly opened his eyes, and a darker, more profound, hellish power surged in all directions like a cold wave. This was the unique ocular power of the eternal Mangekyo. Under the gaze of these eyes, the illusion shattered like ice. The blood-red world vanished in an instant, leaving only a slender figure being flung backwards. Nameless collided with a stone wall, bleeding from all 7 orifices, almost on the verge of fainting. Never use Ganjutsu on someone with stronger ocular power than yourself. Even Tsukami can be counteracted. Madara spoke leisurely, his demeanor calm and composed from start to finish, not even moving his feet. Kamiane appeared instantly beside Nameless, and with a swish, a chakra blade pressed against her pale neck. "Don't move." But he underestimated Nameless's determination. She raised her head, coldly staring at him, blood once again gushing from her right eye socket. Amaterasu. The temperature soared. Kamiane, already sensing it, activated the teleportation jutsu, moving behind Nameless, causing the black flame to miss its mark. Even so, a wisp of flame grazed his finger, and the black fire swiftly engulfed his entire hand. This time, however, he remained much calmer, his expression not as pained, merely frowning slightly, using the power of reversal to extinguish the flames. Nameless attempted to turn her head, but a hand forcefully gripped it. Kamiane pressed close, his knee firmly against Nameless's back, using his weight to pin her down, rendering her unable to rise. "Is this how you treat your savior?" he questioned. "Savior? Hey, all you want is for me to continue being the Uchiha's weapon, this puppet-like fate. I refuse to accept it." Nameless's gaze was filled with hatred. "I will kill both of you, then flee to a place where no one can find me." Kamiane was slightly taken aback. "Perhaps you've misunderstood something?" Tap, tap, tap. A pair of feet appeared in Nameless's field of vision. Hikari Uchiha. Nameless froze, and upon hearing this name, every expression on her face solidified, as if an electric current had surged through her mind. Hikari Uchiha. She looked up, her almond-shaped eyes wide with a mix of confusion and astonishment, reflecting the towering figure of Madara Uchiha. The man before her was too powerful. She had just personally experienced his strength, the oppressive sensation like standing on the edge of an abyss, and the deep, sea-like terrifying ocular power, which were simply beyond her ability to resist. This is the name your parents gave you, your true name. Madara responded. My name. She ceased her struggles and softly asked. Who are you people? We are the same as you, people abandoned by the Uchiha. Kamiane said somewhat helplessly. No, it was we who abandoned them. Madara corrected from the side. Nameless looked a bit dazed. From the moment she recognized the two as clansmen, she had subconsciously assumed they were here to pull her back into the war. After all, to the entire Uchiha clan, she was merely a useful weapon. Although the seals confined space and time, her consciousness remained clear. She didn't know how many days and nights she had been imprisoned, only that what was longer than her life was an endless void and torment. Through her difficult years, she gradually came to understand one truth: to be free, to live again as a human being, she must fight. Fight for herself. She had secretly made up her mind at some point that if she could ever break free, the first thing she would cast off was the bondage called the Uchiha clan. This was also the reason for her sudden violent outburst. You didn't release me for the sake of war? She asked in a daze. Kamiane scoffed. The war you speak of has already ended. Besides myself and Madara-sama, the Uchiha clan has been entirely subverted, blending into an iron pot called Hidden Leaf Village, awaiting a slow death. Hikari Uchiha. Madara stood firm before the two, looking down from above. In the name of the clan leader, I declare that from today onwards, you are no longer a weapon, live on as a human being. Chapter 10, You're quite skillful at picking things up. Kamiane gazed at Hikari Uchiha with a look tinged with resentment. After being fervently embraced by Amaterasu, he was truly furious. If it weren't for the unique nature of his ocular jutsu, he would likely have been reduced to ashes by now. The temperature of those flames was utterly terrifying. Even now, his heart still raced with fear. Although he could reverse time and space, the pain was undeniably real. Madara waved his hand dismissively and said, Kamiane, let her go. But she might suddenly attack us again. Kamiane replied, still somewhat apprehensive. Don't worry, she can't. Madara's tone was calm, exuding the absolute confidence of a Kage-level powerhouse. Understood, Lord Madara. Kamiane complied, moving aside to allow Hikari Uchiha to stand up. Madara looked down at Hikari Uchiha, his voice soft but carrying an undeniable weight as it reached her ears. What Kamiane said earlier is all true, but there's one thing. Whether the war has truly ended remains to be seen. For the ninja world, peace is only temporary. The distance to my envisioned ideal world is still vast. An ideal world. Hikari murmured to herself. Freeing you means we acknowledge your strength. On this path toward our ideals, you can walk with us. As a comrade, not a weapon. Madara then shifted his tone. Of course, you are also free to leave and live the life you desire. Huh? Kamiane was momentarily stunned, glancing at Madara with confusion. But face reality, until we succeed, this world remains a false one, still filled with countless dissatisfactions. With that, Madara turned and walked away without looking back. Kamiane was left in disarray. He had nearly risked his life to release Hikari, only for Madara to seemingly disregard her. Helpless, he hesitated for a moment, glancing at Hikari Uchiha, before ultimately following Madara, leaving her alone where she stood. Does Lord Madara truly not care about Hikari Uchiha? Or is he planning to win her over with his charisma? Kamiane frowned, unable to suppress the thought in his mind. Hikari Uchiha stood there in a daze. After some time, she snapped out of it, her eyes fixed on the two figures gradually fading into the distance. Suddenly, she took a step forward. She's really following us. Kamiane whispered to Madara as he leaned closer. What should we do? Should we wait for her for a bit? No need. Madara replied with his usual calm demeanor. Once she chooses to follow, she will see it through. If she can't even manage that, then she is not truly an Uchiha. Maybe she just wants to catch up and ask for directions. Kamiane secretly thought to himself. The two of them dashed along a shaded forest path and soon arrived at a small town. Kamiane spotted an izakaya and suggested. Lord Madara, let's take a break here for now. Madara nodded, and the two entered the izakaya, choosing a seat near the inner hall. Kamiane took the menu from the waiter and boldly ordered a variety of dishes, ramen, sushi, braised sea bream, chikuzeni, and a steaming pot of sukiyaki. From last night until now, he hadn't eaten a single thing. While waiting for the food, Kamiane hesitated for a moment before pulling out two scrolls from his robe and presenting them to Madara. Lord Madara, I picked these up yesterday in the Hokage's secret chamber. I'm not sure what they are, But the seals on them are quite tricky. Madara took the scrolls, his fingertips glowing blue as he effortlessly dispelled the seals. Reanimation jutsu? Madara skimmed through the contents, then opened the other scroll. And this? The 8 gates? He glanced at Kamiane with a slightly scrutinizing look. Both S-rank forbidden jutsu. You're quite the scavenger. Lord Madara, you know me. Kamiane straightened his back, speaking with righteous confidence. Opportunities like this are too good to pass up. Fortunately, Madara didn't press further and instead tossed the scrolls back to Kamiane. Since you've got them, there's no reason not to learn them. But, Lord Madara, aren't you going to train in them yourself? Kamiane probed tentatively. He had thought Madara might be interested in these forbidden techniques. I don't need them. Madara said indifferently. That reanimation jutsu could greatly enhance your spiritual power. You should study it. The strength of one's ocular jutsu is directly tied to spiritual power, and spiritual power is inextricably linked to yin style. Kamiane nodded, half understanding. He was a brute by nature and had never received any formal guidance or training. All his combat skills were honed through instinct. Even the ninjutsu he knew had been learned from comrades on the battlefield. In his vague understanding, he knew that ocular power was the energy released through the user's eyes, closely related to yin style. For certain bloodline-based ocular jutsu, ocular power was the measure of a person's strength in that domain. And the strength of yin style was directly proportional to one's spiritual power. Seeing Kamiane's incomplete grasp, Madara pondered for a moment before asking. Do you know the essence of chakra? I can answer that. Kamiane replied. Chakra is the perfect fusion of a person's spiritual energy and physical energy. Spiritual energy represents the yin attribute, while physical energy represents the yang attribute. Different ratios of yin and yang give rise to the 7 nature transformations of chakra, which correspond to the way yin and yang combine to create all things in the universe. Correct. Madara nodded in satisfaction. Kamiane smiled. These were lessons taught to him by a stoic yet kind-hearted elder on the battlefield. But that elder had later perished in a siege by the Senju clan. The memory darkened Kamiane's smile. Madara seemed unaware of this and continued. Among the nature transformations of chakra, wind, fire, water, earth, and lightning are the 5 basic elements. Yin style and yang style, however, are special. Kamiane's thoughts were drawn back as he asked. So, does that mean spiritual energy is yin style, and physical energy is yang style? Beginners often fall into such misconceptions. Madara chuckled, sipping his warm tea, clearly in the mood to elaborate. Yin style is special chakra refined by fusing a portion of the yang attribute with spiritual energy. Conversely, yang style works the same way. What makes them special is that the ratio of yin and yang is in 8. Unlike the 5 elemental natures, which can be learned later in life. He gazed out the window, his voice drifting softly. For someone born with yin style to acquire yang style, they would have to defy fate itself. Kamiane was deep in thought. Madara's words had opened his mind, as if clearing away the fog to reveal the clear sky. The external manifestations of the 5 elemental natures were easy to distinguish, but techniques based on yin and yang style were often secret ninjutsu. For example, medical ninjutsu, the Akimaki clan's multi-size technique, and the Senju clan's super strength. Most of these, related to the body, were external manifestations of yang style. On the other hand, those related to the mind were mostly yin style, such as the Nara clan's shadow possession jutsu, the Yamanaka clan's mind transfer jutsu, and the Byakugan and Sharingan. All were external manifestations of yin style. It could be said that spiritual energy was a core component of yin style, and yin style was a direct marker of the strength of one's ocular power. Kamiane's eyes lit up as the previously obscure concepts began to unravel. Chapter 11, The New Uchiha. At this moment, Madara Uchiha tapped the tabletop. The source of power for taijutsu is physical energy, while the source of power for ganjutsu is mental energy. However, whether it's taijutsu or ganjutsu, both rely on chakra. You should be deeply aware of this by now, right? Kamiane understood clearly. Ninjutsu, taijutsu, and ganjutsu are fundamentally different systems of power and cannot be conflated. In the original timeline, the reason why Kisame's Great Shark Bullet technique, which specializes in absorbing chakra, lost to Might Guy's 7th Gate Stay Time Tiger lies precisely in this. Madara took a sip of tea and said. As for that 8 Inner Gates technique, it is an extremely powerful taijutsu secret. The stronger one's physical constitution, the greater its power. However, it requires years and years of rigorous training. Kamiane nodded. This was something he naturally understood. The prerequisite for mastering the 8 Inner Gates is to build up one's stamina, temper the muscles and bones, and undergo unconventional, strenuous, and extreme long-term training. Only in this way can every part of the body be honed, allowing the muscles, bones, flesh, and organs to adapt to the immense burden imposed by opening the gates, thereby minimizing the damage caused by the overwhelming energy unleashed. As the food was served, the two began their meal. It wasn't until the tea cooled that a staggering figure finally appeared at the edge of their vision. Hikaru Uchiha had actually followed them all this way. Her breathing was slightly labored, her pale face flushed with an unnatural redness, and she looked like someone who had just recovered from a serious illness, clearly nearing her limit. Leaning against the doorframe, she walked into the shop with feeble steps. Where did this beggar come from? Upon seeing her, the shop attendant immediately showed a look of impatience. Her tattered clothes, disheveled long hair, and especially her bare feet made it easy for anyone to associate her with the word beggar. Get out of here. There's no food for you. What bad luck. If the boss sees this, he'll deduct my pay again. The attendant scolded without hesitation. Madara raised his eyes and was about to stand up, but Kamiyane, who had been observing the situation for a while, stepped forward first. She's with us. Kamiyane said, placing his hand on the attendant's shoulder with a seemingly harmless smile. And so, Hikaru Uchiha also took a seat at the table, staring straight at Madara with eager ramen-shaped eyes, occasionally glancing at the food on the table. Gurgle. Her stomach protested. Eat. Madara said indifferently. She immediately began devouring the food, grabbing sushi with her left hand and a chicken leg with her right, stuffing them into her mouth like a whirlwind. The clinking of bowls and chopsticks echoed around her. Her eating manners made the other diners frown slightly, and they moved their chairs farther away. How long has this poor child been starving? Kamiyane sighed and pushed the tea towards her. Hikaru Uchiha didn't hesitate, picked up the teapot, and gulped it down. Gulp, gulp. Have you decided to join us on our journey? Madara asked softly, lifting his teacup. Hikaru Uchiha paused, her mouth stuffed full, and nodded vigorously before continuing to wolf down the food. Just like that, she is won over? Kamiyane looked at her with admiration, his mind drifting to whimsical thoughts. Indeed, a cool and aloof older man is always the ultimate weapon for winning over young girls. After the meal and tea, Madara Uchiha stood up, his gaze fixed directly on Kamiyane. Kamiyane felt a chill under his stare. Do you have any money? Madara's deep voice came through. Kamiyane's throat tightened as he suddenly realized something. Lord Madara, don't you have any money? It was you who pulled me in here. I never intended to come here to eat. The eyes of the surrounding diners turned towards them. Feeling embarrassed, Kamiyane lowered his head and whispered. Do we actually have to pay for the meal? Do I look like a street thug to you? Madara tilted his head slightly, giving him a strange look. Hikaru Uchiha wiped her mouth and glanced over curiously, her bright eyes blinking as she also tilted her head. This. Kamiyane looked at the two individuals, whose appearances and hairstyles were strikingly similar, and felt a few black lines forming on his forehead. Lord Madara, there's something I'd like to ask, if I may. Go ahead. Are you two perhaps related by blood? Of course not, why do you ask? Madara frowned slightly. It's just that you two are so alike. Kamiyane gestured with his hands in the air. The hairstyle, the demeanor, and even the clothing style, they are almost identical. Are they? At this question, both the big and the small one stared at him with a mix of curiosity. Absolutely. Kamiyane nodded vigorously. It's just a coincidence. Madara said nonchalantly. Oh, by the way, find some time to get her a new outfit. What she's wearing now is too conspicuous. And one more thing, remember to settle the bill. From today onwards, the three of us will be the new Uchiha clan. Madara announced, looking at the two children before him. Where are we going next? Hikaru Uchiha asked softly. Madara gazed up at the vast sky, his expression inscrutable. To the ends of the earth, to the boundless world. Kamiyane clutched his empty wallet, looking up at the sky with a face full of melancholy. 2 days later, within the borders of the land of waterfalls. Boom. Two massive arms collided fiercely, stirring up gusts of wind. One arm was deep blue like the ocean, the other pitch black like ink, both unleashing raw and violent power without restraint, as if ready to destroy everything. Madara and Kamiyane stood facing each other from a distance, their colossal Susanoo forms locked in a standoff, both having entered the first stage. The surrounding area was littered with broken wood, the ground scarred with trenches, a complete mess. Not bad, your speed is indeed impressive. Madara remarked, crossing his arms as he controlled his Susanoo to throw a punch. When I was your age, I couldn't do this. Bang. The black Susanoo raised its arm, blocking the heavy punch. The wind howled, and black energy spread rapidly, forming a second pair of arms that wrapped around Madara's Susanoo, locking it in place. Despite the praise, Kamiyane's expression remained grave. The intensity of the confrontation with Madara left him no room for distraction, beads of cold sweat forming on his forehead. You flatter me, Madara-sama. I still have much to learn. Deep within the lush forest, a giant waterfall hung suspended. The torrential river cascaded down the cliff into the downstream riverbed, the water curtain spreading out and stirring up countless droplets. Beneath the waterfall, a small figure was soaking naked in the pool. A set of brand new clothes was neatly stacked on the shore. The cool river water flowed inch by inch over her snow-white body. Under the dappled tree shadows, her skin was smooth and delicate, glowing with the warmth of jade. Hikaru Uchiha raised her fair wrist, scooping up a handful of water and pouring it over her head. She felt the refreshing coolness seep into her scalp and let out a satisfied sigh. After being sealed for so many years, the thick, earthy smell had become unbearable even to her. Today, she finally washed it all away. Boom, boom, boom. Outside the pool, dull thuds echoed from time to time, making Hikaru feel as if her heart was trembling along with them. She didn't pay much attention. In the past 2 days, she had grown accustomed to the rhythm of life with her new companions. The two of them seemed to be fighting every day, though it felt more like a form of sparring. The man controlled the intensity of his attacks, training the young boy to constantly improve. That technique is called Susanoo? She tilted her head slightly, her bright eyes flickering with curiosity and a faint eagerness to try. Whoosh! She scooped up a handful of clear pool water, watching it trickle through the gaps between her fingers. The cool sensation crawled over her skin inch by inch. Under the mottled sunlight, her slender arms looked as delicate and translucent as jade. New life has begun. Chapter 12. The road ahead is long and arduous. 1 week later. Whoosh! 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 3 shuriken flew out in a triangular formation, colliding midair, and scattered in different directions amidst the sparks. Thud! 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 The shuriken embedded themselves into different tree trunks, each precisely hitting a falling leaf. Kamiane slowly retracted his hand and glanced at Hikari Uchiha beside him, saying softly, Shuriken Jutsu is something that we Uchiha can master quite easily. I believe you'll reach this level soon. Hikari frowned slightly. Can you be more specific? I don't understand. Kamiane blinked, as if choked. After Hikari Uchiha joined the team, he was surprised to find that his own foundation wasn't actually the worst in the group. In contrast, Hikari's fighting style was much more barbaric. Whether it was because she had been sealed for too long or because her basics were inherently weak, she could only use her ocular techniques. Her taijutsu didn't even follow the simplest patterns, and her chakra control, along with shuriken jutsu, was utterly crude. In this regard, she was quite similar to Kawaki from the original timeline, who only knew how to manipulate the power of the karma while his foundational training was abysmal. Even Madara couldn't help but shake his head and left only this remark, such trivial matters, Kamiane, you can teach her. Thinking of this, he cleared his throat and said, training in shuriken jutsu requires sufficient observation and physical coordination. You possess the Mangekyo Sharingan, so your observational skills are naturally exceptional. What you need to do now is try to synchronize your movements with your thoughts. As for the technique of throwing shuriken, he pondered for a moment, then extended a finger and smiled. Use your favorite method, whatever feels comfortable for you. Hikari Uchiha was left speechless, with a black line floating above her head. Is this how Madara-sama taught you? You might be misunderstanding something. I wasn't taught by Madara-sama. Kamiane spread his hands. To be honest, my foundation is also quite poor, just slightly better than yours. You're lying. She frowned, her tone calm. You can precisely control the direction and landing points of hundreds of shuriken. Teach me. Well, it's accumulated practice over time, combined with certain epiphanies during life and death moments. Of course, the experiences and guidance of comrades are also crucial. Hikari tilted her head, her eyes flashing with confusion. Life and death moments? Ah, in the Warring States era, not everyone was like you, a trump card only appearing at the critical moment to secure victory. Kamiane shook his head. As a foot soldier charging on the battlefield, if your combat skills aren't strong, you can only be cannon fodder. Often, human potential is forced out. He picked up a shuriken from the ground. On a chaotic battlefield, if your throw isn't accurate, you and your comrades could be in danger. Similarly, if you can't move freely on water, you'll only be drowned by the enemy. With a whoosh, the shuriken shot through the air, drawing a graceful arc around the two, and then, like a swallow returning to its nest, it landed back in front of Kamiane, spinning on his fingertip. This is good, teach me. Hikari slightly widened her beautiful eyes, like a child discovering a beloved toy. Simple trajectory calculation, considering wind direction, air humidity, and so on, then whoosh, hey. In short, it's swoosh hey. Kamiyane gestured a couple of times, imitating the motion. Hikari clenched her small pink fists, veins popping on her smooth forehead. If you keep mocking me, I'll kill you. Let's not get so violent. Kamiyane recalled the fear of being dominated by Amaterasu, his expression turning grim. This is the task Madara-sama assigned to you. She stared straight into Kamiyane's eyes, her small hand extended. Teach me. Be serious. She added. Kamiyane sighed deeply. It seemed Madara was destined to be a hands-off leader. It seems your desire to become stronger is even more urgent than mine. Kamiyane said. Do you also think the Eye of the Moon plan is feasible? Not long ago, Madara had formally introduced his Eye of the Moon plan to the two, including the Rinnegan, the Outer Path statue, the Ten Tails Jinchuriki, and the Infinite Tsukaimi, a world-ending ocular technique. According to Madara, these were all recorded on a stone tablet in the basement of Naka Shrine, left by the Uchiha ancestor Indra, with the full details only visible to those with the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. These revelations solidified his beliefs and guided his path forward. However, before proceeding, Madara decided to assess the world's current state, to determine if Hashirama's method had truly brought peace. If this peace was only superficial, as hypocritical as Hidden Leaf Village's acceptance of the Uchiha, then he would stick to his convictions and immediately execute the Eye of the Moon plan. If Madara-sama thinks it's possible, then it's possible. Hikari said calmly. Such confidence, almost indifferent. Kamiyane thought to himself. He knew well that the so-called Infinite Tsukaimi plan was merely a scheme by Black Zetsu to revive Kaguya Otsutsuki. The contents of the clan's tablet had been tampered with by Black Zetsu, and even Madara had become a pawn in his game. An ideal world. True peace. All of it was a complete sham. Black Zetsu, or more accurately, Kaguya's ultimate goal, was to revive and consolidate defenses to prepare for the arrival of the Otsutsuki clan. If Kaguya succeeded in reviving, all of humanity would be transformed into white Zetsu by the Divine Tree. If the extraterrestrial Otsutsuki invasion succeeded, then all of humanity would become nourishment for the Divine Tree, devoured by the Otsutsuki clan. Whichever side prevailed, it would be catastrophic for the world. The current ninja world may seem peaceful, subdued by the overwhelming presence of Hashirama and Madara, but beneath the surface, there lurk numerous dangers. An evil deity of unknown origin. The shadowy manipulator, Zetsu. The descendants of Hamura on the moon. The Sage of Six Paths, who observes the world from the Pure Land. And then there's the Otsutsuki Ishiki, who has taken over the monk Jigen's body, survived for over 1,000 years, and harbors far-reaching ambitions. The ninja world is fraught with uncertainties. However, even though Kamiyane is aware of all this in advance, he cannot speak of it, for no one would believe him, and doing so might only endanger himself. For now, he can only stay by Madara's side, silently growing stronger, waiting for the right moment to become a player in the game, ultimately taking control of his own destiny. The so-called lying low and developing power. Bah! It is precisely the principle of a gentleman hiding his talents and biding his time. These are not things I should be considering right now. Hikaru suddenly said, a glimmer of melancholy in her eyes. All I know is that if I don't get stronger, I'll just be a burden, and I'll definitely be cast aside. In the afternoon, Hikaru Uchiha placed one foot on the tree trunk, focusing chakra on the sole of her foot. After taking a deep breath, she placed her other foot on the trunk as well, her body perpendicular to the tree at a 90-degree angle. She was training her chakra control and balance. From above, Kamiyane's voice rang out, for a ninja, walking on trees or water is simply one way of utilizing chakra. The principle involves using chakra to alter the physical properties of the molecular fibers in contact with the soles of the feet, influencing the behavior of hydrogen bonds, thereby increasing the adhesive force between the tree trunk and the soles. The difficulty lies in constantly switching the state of chakra focus while walking. Hikaru's face remained tense, and after struggling to take 2 steps, she fell down. Rubbing her bottom, she stood up and looked up at the figure in the tree, her expression a mix of exasperation and envy. In the tree, Kamiyane was hanging upside down, his feet firmly attached to the underside of a branch, his black hair standing on end. His natural posture resembled that of a nonchalant bat. Holding a scroll in his hands, he responded casually. You're focusing too hard. My suggestion is to try to control your chakra in the most comfortable way possible, imagining yourself walking on flat ground, gradually turning it into an instinct. Hikaru Uchiha took a deep breath, her expression serious, and continued her attempts. Kamiyane paid her no mind, his gaze never leaving the scroll in front of him. Spiritual transformation technique, separating one spiritual energy from physical energy, materializing the spiritual energy into a stable spirit body, and using it to engage in combat. The effects of this technique transcend the conventional concept of ninjutsu. The spirit body possesses the consciousness of the user, can fly at high speeds, traverse any terrain, and is immune to all physical attacks. It can possess an enemy, causing their spirit to collapse from within, or enter another's mental world to forcibly control their body. Once mastered, the soul becomes specialized, developing a vast range of sensory abilities that can detect the souls of others, regardless of distance or prior knowledge of their location. Upon transforming into a spirit body, the user can instantly reach the target's body. Depending on the situation and the user's will, this technique can accomplish many things, such as transmitting information, confirming the target's life or death, or even supplying the target with chakra. However, it has a fatal weakness: when the spirit body leaves the physical body, the latter becomes extremely vulnerable to attack. Without a physical body, the spirit body will quickly dissipate and perish. This is practically the legendary out-of-body soul travel. Kamien nodded repeatedly, his resolve to master this technique growing stronger. The reason it's classified as an S-rank ninjutsu is because the barrier to mastering the spiritual transformation technique is exceedingly high. The practitioner must possess high-quality in-style chakra, and soul separation itself is an extremely perilous endeavor. Only those with great determination would even dare to attempt it. At that moment, a figure landed on the branch, causing both of them to look up. Clad in black, with long hair reaching his waist, and carrying a fan and scythe on his back. It was Madara Uchiha. "How's the training going?" "Not great." Hikaru raised her small, palm-sized face and pointed at Kamien, reporting candidly. "He can't teach properly." "Nani? Holy crap, sis, you look all innocent and cute, but you're actually ratting me out, and right in front of me." Kamien was stunned, hooking a foot onto the branch and swinging himself up to stand on it. Lord Madara, her shuriken jutsu has improved significantly. When it comes to a single shuriken, she's already achieved perfect accuracy. It's just her chakra control that needs work." "He's lying. His methods are impossible for me to learn." Hikaru continued, her words shocking everyone. Kamien broke into a cold sweat. "Teach her properly," Madara said calmly, glancing at him. Of course, of course." Kamien nodded nervously. "More importantly." He quickly changed the subject. "Lord Madara, did you gain anything from your trip?" "I just paid a simple visit to an old friend," Madara replied, a faint sneer on his face. "Observing the state of the people is bound to be a lengthy process. We still have a long way to go." Chapter 13, The Moon's Eye Plan 5 years later. On a high platform atop the mountains of the Land of Lightning. "Be careful, don't look into their eyes." 3 Hidden Clouds village shinobi were frantically fleeing, the sound of breaking air incessant, as a dense barrage of shuriken swept towards them like bullets, forcing them into a corner. Standing opposite them on the sandstone were a handsome man and a beautiful woman dressed in high-collared black clothing, their pairs of crimson 3 Tomoe Sharingan eyes exuding a mesmerizing gleam. At their feet lay the bodies of over a dozen Hidden Clouds village shinobi, charred corpses scattered everywhere, blood flowing like a river, the air thick with the smell of burning and blood. "Tell us the whereabouts of the Ninetales, and we'll spare your lives." The girl's voice was cold and clear, tinged with impatience. "Otherwise, don't blame us for taking matters into our own hands." Her skin was as white as snow, accentuated by her long, glossy black hair. Her long, delicate eyebrows arched like crescent moons, her beautiful face cold as frost, her bright eyes like autumn waters, yet filled with undisguised killing intent. "You're going too far," one of the Hidden Clouds village shinobi shouted angrily. "The information about the Ninetales is a secret of our village. How could we possibly tell you?" "So, you choose death?" The girl slightly raised her eyes, her pupils instantly transforming into the Mangekyo Sharingan, with dark patterns swirling like 3 swallows freely circling in the sky. A cold, oppressive chakra aura spread out, causing the 3 to shiver simultaneously. "Damn Uchiha, are you trying to provoke a war between Hidden Clouds village and Hidden Leaf village?" The Hidden Clouds village shinobi who seemed to be the leader gritted his teeth and stepped forward. "You've entered our country, wantonly slaughtering Hidden Clouds village shinobi. Did Hashirama-sama condone all this?" "Watch your mouth. We have no connection with Hidden Leaf village." The boy on the left spoke up. His face was as flawless as jade, with clear and delicate features, his short black hair naturally falling, a faint smile on his lips, but his cold and aloof eyes exuded an air of arrogance. "And don't mention that person's name in front of us." As soon as he finished speaking, his figure suddenly blurred without warning, appearing instantly in the center of the 3. Whoosh! A flash of light, a blade of icy blue chakra, accompanied by spurting blood, a head with a bewildered expression was sent flying into the air. "What? Captain?" The remaining 2 were shocked, but as seasoned veterans, they quickly reacted despite their panic, drawing their swords and thrusting towards the boy's back and side. Zap! Brilliant electricity flickered along the blades, the secret technique of Hidden Cloud's village, supersonic vibrating lightning-style blade. At that moment, the boy's cheeks slightly puffed up. Fire style, ash concealment technique. A massive amount of ash completely engulfed the group, the ash filled with unimaginable heat. The two Hidden Clouds village shinobi instinctively closed their eyes, but their respiratory tracts were still scorched, causing them to cough uncontrollably. One of the Hidden Clouds village shinobi, enduring the discomfort, immediately retreated in the opposite direction, but was met with a heavy blow, a hand like an iron clamp gripping his throat. The sound of wind whistled past his ears, the air turning cool again, as if someone had taken him out of the ash. He instinctively opened his eyes, immediately meeting a pair of eerie, bright Sharingan eyes. Ganjutsu, puppet technique. The three Tomoe slightly rotated, and his expression became blank, completely lost in the illusion. On the other side, the surging ash was accompanied by a series of explosions, flames rippling out. A scream was heard, the ash scattered, revealing a charred corpse. Your teleportation jutsu is becoming more and more elusive, Kamine. The girl leapt down, her black clothes fluttering like a butterfly. You're not bad either, both your taijutsu and shuriken jutsu surpass the level of an average jonin. The boy smiled slightly, giving her a thumbs up. This pair of young man and woman were naturally the accomplished Kamine and Hikari Uchiha. And the reason they were here. Tell us the whereabouts of the Nine Tails. Kamine commanded. The Hidden Clouds village shinobi looked blank, his mouth opening and closing. I don't know. How is that possible? Didn't your village attempt to capture the Nine Tails 3 months ago? That operation ended in failure, and we lost many people. The Hidden Clouds village shinobi responded as instructed. Kamine's gaze shifted slightly. Who knows the whereabouts of the Nine Tails? Lord Kinkaku and Lord Ginkaku might know, as they were once swallowed by the Nine Tails during its capture. 2 weeks later, they emerged unscathed and obtained the Nine Tails chakra. Is that so? Kamine stroked his chin and glanced at Hikari beside him, saying. It seems we need to make a choice. What choice? To obediently return and leave this matter to Lord Madara for decision, or to press our advantage and extract information from Kinkaku and Ginkaku before returning. Kamine extended his hand towards Hikari Uchiha, presenting her with the options. So, what will it be? Remain a nameless pawn or rise to fame? I'll follow your lead. Hikari showed a contemplative expression. Kinkaku and Ginkaku. Are these two strong? Kamine shrugged. From what I know, these two are descendants of the Sage of Six Paths, capable of freely wielding the Sage's 5 great ninja tools. They inherently possess chakra on par with tailed beasts, and now they've even obtained the Nine Tails chakra. They are undoubtedly troublesome. However, I'm more concerned about Hidden Clouds village. He shifted the topic. These two hold extremely high status in Hidden Clouds village, belonging to the upper echelons. If we barge in recklessly, we might cause significant trouble for Lord Madara. Why not just avoid being detected? Hikari raised her eyebrows, casting a puzzled look at him. Somehow, this expression seemed full of provocation to Kamine. I'm merely stating the facts. If we're exposed, this incident will undoubtedly cause a huge uproar in the ninja world. If Hidden Leaf Village catches wind of it, it could jeopardize Lord Madara's plans. Kamine glared back. He felt somewhat frustrated. He was already 13 years old, yet he was still half a head shorter than Hikari Uchiha. Hikari thought seriously for a moment. I choose fame. Alright, then I'll risk my life to accompany you. Kamine elegantly clapped his hands. Wait, why is it always me making the final decision? Come to think of it, the same thing happened during our previous missions. She finally caught on. Why bring that up? In the land of fire, on a desolate plain. Uchiha reflection. A hurricane swept through, scattering the formation of dozens of Hidden Leaf Village ninja, who fell to the ground like dumplings. The area hundreds of meters ahead was flattened by the gale. Madara Uchiha retracted his fan and gazed in the direction of Hidden Leaf Village, his cold eyes gradually softening. Now, Hashirama will have no choice but to act. After 5 years of traveling, he had nearly traversed the entire ninja world. Whether it was major or minor nations, any country with some strength was emulating Hashirama Senju's village system, establishing one ninja village after another. But he had also come to understand that this piece was like duckweed on calm water. Once someone stirred the surface, it would inevitably churn up endless foam. The ninja world seemed stable, but almost every village was actively cultivating its forces. Some countries even secretly petitioned their daimyo for funds, amassing troops in the shadows, their burgeoning ambitions laid bare. So-called peace is merely built upon Hashirama's martial deterrence. Once the strongest force is lost, this false peace will quickly shatter. As time passed, Madara gradually formed this perspective. Especially when the first Mizukage, upon learning that he had left Hidden Leaf Village, secretly invited him to join Hidden Mist Village. This belief solidified to its extreme. Hashirama, you're wrong. As long as people exist, conflict in this world is inevitable. He was utterly disillusioned with Hashirama's approach. The Eye of the Moon plan thus began to unfold. The first step of the plan was to awaken the power of the Rinnegan. According to the stone tablet, he first needed to obtain Hashirama's cells, merging the powers of Indra and Asura, to awaken yin-yang style and open these legendary eyes. This would inevitably lead to a battle with Hashirama. Recalling his previous crushing defeat, Madara decided that before the final showdown, he would capture the strongest of the nine-tailed beasts to compensate for his lack of endurance in prolonged battles. It was also to slightly increase his chances of victory. And to guard against Obi-Rama, that sly old fox. This was why Kamiane and Hikari appeared in the Land of Lightning. The second step was to summon the Jado statue, the shell of the Ten-Tails, using the Rinnegan. The third step was to gather the nine-tailed beasts, revive the Ten-Tails, and then cast the Six Paths, Ten-Tails Coffin Seal, becoming the Ten-Tails Jinchuriki. He calculated that awakening the Rinnegan would be a lengthy process and that after the battle with Hashirama, he might lose his combat abilities. Thus, Kamiane and Hikari Uchiha were now of utmost importance. To this end, he would spare no effort in training them and ensuring they inherited his ideology. In the time to come, the two would act in his name in the outside world, capturing the nine-tailed beasts before he awakened the Rinnegan. The final step was to approach the moon with the power of the Six Paths, awaken the Rin Sharingan, and cast the infinite Tsukuyomi. Controlling all people in the world, unifying the world, and creating an eternal peace within the illusion. After casting the infinite Tsukuyomi, the divine tree would descend, sealing people into tree cocoons. Their bodies would be nourished by the divine tree, thus preventing death. Their souls would forever remain immersed in the illusion of the infinite Tsukuyomi, each person living in their ideal dream world. Reality and illusion would no longer matter. The sun would shine upon the earth, and the world would fall into silence, with no more wars or smoke. And Madara himself would become the guardian, enduring this eternal solitude alone. Chapter 14, Inviting the Gentleman into the Jar in the Land of Lightning. The two who had already decided to take action against Kinkaku and Ginkaku were fully prepared. You must ensure my safety. After my soul leaves my body, it becomes extremely fragile, a single touch could destroy it. Kamiane said, staring intently at Hikari Uchiha with a serious expression in a hidden cave. First, I'm not deaf. Second, I'm not stupid. Third, this is the fourth time you've said this. Hikari replied impatiently. The light inside the cave was dim, and the Cloud Ninja stood beside them with a blank expression. Actually, what I'm worried about isn't others. Are you going to act or not? Alright, I'm on it. Kamiane raised his hands in surrender. Their plan was simple. Since they were targeting Kinkaku and Ginkaku, they couldn't act openly. The hidden cloud village was vast and powerful, and directly attacking these two high-ranking figures within their village would be a reckless move. Thus, the foolproof strategy was to set up an ambush in advance and lure them into the trap. This also avoided the risk of being discovered while infiltrating the hidden cloud village. As for how to lure them out. Soul transformation technique. Kamiane took a deep breath, forming the rabbit hand seal with his hands. As his eyes closed, a light and ethereal humanoid spirit leaped out from the crown of his head. He glanced at his translucent hands. After transforming into a spirit, his vision became incredibly broad, and he felt a profound sense of relaxation from within, exuding comfort from the inside out. Every time he performed the soul transformation technique, an impulse surged within him. A desire to roam freely across the heavens and earth, overlooking all mountains. His physical body remained standing still, breathing evenly, with a serene expression as if in deep sleep. Without hesitation, his spirit body dived down and instantly entered the Cloud Ninja's forehead. He arrived in a space filled with a colorful ocean, surrounded by fantastical hues. This was the Cloud Ninja's mental world. Or rather, his mind. At a glance, the Cloud Ninja's spiritual body lay dormant at the center of the space, still immersed in Kamiane's Genjutsu. Though the master of this realm, he now resembled a lamb awaiting slaughter, offering his neck to the blade. Kamiane approached the Cloud Ninja's spiritual body, conjuring a twisted, clear light in his palm, and gently pressed it against the other's forehead. It was worth noting that after Kamiane's soul left his body, his spirit body retained the properties of his Mangekyo Sharingan. Thus, he could freely cast Genjutsu, which were rooted in spiritual energy. This meant that once he entered an enemy's mental world, his Genjutsu would hit with absolute precision. The enemy's mind became his domain. Moreover, with a simple touch of the enemy's spiritual body, he could extract all the information he desired. This soul search technique even eliminated the need for interrogation. The wondrous interaction between the Uchiha lineage and the soul transformation technique achieved a synergy where 1 plus 1 far exceeded 2. Of course, all of this was contingent on the enemy's soul being weaker than his or already in a dormant state. Otherwise, even the soul transformation technique carried the risk of backlash. Soon, Kamiane completed his intelligence search, a smile curling at the corners of his mouth. Outside the mental world, under Hikari Uchiha's watchful gaze, the Cloud Ninja's fingers twitched slightly before his eyes slowly opened. "Long live Lord Madara." The Cloud Ninja spoke in a lively tone. Only then did Hikari relax. This was the prearranged signal between them. If Kamiane failed to possess the ninja, she could respond immediately. Though the likelihood of such an event was minuscule. Kamiane stretched his body a few times. "From what I know, King Kaku is fiercely protective of his brother. If anything happens to King Kaku, he'll go berserk. So, I'll ambush King Kaku, and then you'll use your ocular jutsu to control King Kaku. That should ensure success." The two went over the plan one last time. "Remember my signal. Those brothers aren't fools. If we fail, there won't be another chance." Kamiane reminded. "Got it. You should be careful too." "Oh? Careful of what?" Kamiane blinked. "Careful not to be discovered. Don't ruin Lord Madara's plan." Hikari turned her head slightly, avoiding his gaze. The person before her, though his appearance and voice had changed, still had that same mischievous, slightly flippant look in his eyes. Utterly infuriating. Kamiane pointed to his head. "Don't worry. I've memorized this guy's usual speech, mannerisms, and habits. I shouldn't be discovered." And, seeing Hikari's hesitant expression, he smiled gently. "I'll be careful. I wasn't worried about you." Hikari's cheeks flushed slightly as she was about to retort, but Kamiane activated the teleportation jutsu and vanished in an instant. The Hidden Cloud Village, affiliated with the Land of Lightning, is a combat-oriented ninja village established by the first Raikage, ranking among the top even within the 5 great ninja villages. The village is founded atop towering peaks that pierce the clouds, shrouded in mist, with deafening thunder echoing throughout the day. However, what outsiders most admire is the village's exceptionally high internal cohesion, with unity from top to bottom, which also inevitably determines their extremely xenophobic nature. In the original timeline, the Hidden Cloud Village was the only one among the 5 great ninja villages that did not produce any rogue ninja from the Akatsuki organization. Kamiane, borrowing the body of a cloud ninja named Ami, effortlessly infiltrated the village. Using the intelligence in his mind, he meandered through the village in a seemingly aimless manner, but in reality, he was quietly approaching a specific location. That location was the residence of the Gold and Silver brothers. After repeatedly confirming that no one was paying attention to him, Kamiane finally stepped through the gate. Upon entering the residence, he immediately put on a panicked expression, stumbling directly towards the inner courtyard. "Lord Gold, Lord Silver. I have urgent news to report." "Where is Lord Gold? Where is Lord Silver?" "I have urgent news to report." With a loud bang, the main door was roughly pushed open, and a burly figure slowly emerged. "It's the middle of the day, stop making so much noise." Silver, still drowsy, yawned. Upon recognizing Kamiane's face, his expression turned impatient. So it's you. If you woke me up for something trivial, I'll kill you." He shook his head, and under his yak-like horns, his silver hair shimmered faintly in the sunlight. Kamiane quickly glanced at Silver, noticing the 3 symmetrical whisker marks on his cheeks, and inwardly frowned. It seems the rumors are true, these brothers have indeed obtained the Nine-Tails chakra. "Lord Silver, we have discovered traces of the Nine-Tails." "What?" Silver's eyes widened, and he leapt in front of Kamiane. "Say that again." "While on a mission, we encountered the Nine-Tails. It seemed intent on revenge against our village and attacked us directly." Kamiane's eyes showed fear, his voice trembling. "Everyone except me is dead." Silver grabbed Kamiane by the collar, lifting him like a chick, and barged into another room. "Gold, wake up. That beast has come back for revenge." However, Gold was not napping. He seemed to be in the midst of chakra refinement training. When Silver burst in, he immediately opened his eyes, and the violent chakra around him gradually subsided. He slowly stood up, and Kamiane was surprised to find that this man was even more robust than Silver. His dark golden hair flowed down, and his bulging muscles were filled with surging vitality. Combined with his 2 fearsome horns, he was like a humanoid beast. "Can you believe it? That beast has come back to seek revenge on us." Silver laughed excitedly. At that moment, Gold's authoritative gaze turned towards them. Are you certain it was the Nine-Tails?" Kamiane nodded vigorously, his tone that of someone who had narrowly escaped death. "It was the Nine-Tails. With just a swipe of its claws, all my comrades were killed. I had already reported to the Raikage, but he seems unwilling to invest more resources into this matter. He only ordered to console the families of the fallen comrades, saying it was for the village's long-term development. Humphrey. That guy is really slow. Silver spat in disgust. Silver, no matter what, he is our Raikage. Sometimes he is right. Gold reminded him. But Yatsuki Sora, Mo, and Sarui are all dead. Kamiyane said with despair. My lords, won't you even avenge them? His expression was dramatic, but his mind was calm. According to Amui's intelligence, Gold and Silver had some disagreements with the first Raikage. Although it wasn't to the point of open hostility, they often had differing opinions on certain matters. If the first Raikage was a dove advocating for peaceful development with a broad perspective, then these brothers were hawks who revered martial prowess and advocated for radical action. Moreover, among the list of the fallen he had mentioned, the Yatsuki clan ninja was one of Gold and Silver's trusted subordinates. At that moment, Silver patted his shoulder. Don't worry, we will definitely avenge our brothers. Gold, let's set out now. Just a part of its flesh and blood gave us such great power. If we could. He showed a slightly cunning smile. Aren't you curious about the Ninetales' power? But what about the Raikage? Gold hesitated for a moment, then, seeing Silver's eager gaze, finally nodded. Fine, with the two of us, we should be able to capture the Ninetales alive this time. After it's done, the Raikage won't have anything to say. Amui, lead the way. Chapter 15, The Final Truth in a Desolate Mountain of the Land of Lightning. Kamiyane was leading the Gold and Silver brothers on their journey. The wind howled, and the scenery on both sides rapidly receded as they moved forward. Along the way, the two brothers chatted intermittently. That beast sure talks a lot, doesn't it? Yeah, last time we didn't get to use our ninja tools, but this time we can. Gold, my tailed beast transformation isn't very proficient yet. Then, I'll take the lead in the attack. A partial tailed beast transformation will cause loss of consciousness, so you handle the ninja tools. As he spoke, Gold spat out a miniaturized version of the Bashozen and the Shichiken from his mouth, handing them to Silver. A brief and simple exchange of words sufficed to establish the combat strategy against the Ninetales, a testament to the profound synergy between the two brothers. Several times, Kamiyane was almost tempted to activate astral projection, directly invading the mental world of either Gold or Silver to extract information through interrogation. But after careful consideration, he suppressed this impulse. After all, these two were descendants of the Sage of Six Paths. They had been swallowed by the Ninetales without being digested and had even ended up devouring the Ninetales' flesh. If their souls possessed any special properties, he would have nowhere to cry. In the original timeline, they had the impressive feat of killing the second Raikage and the second Hokage. If he attacked recklessly, there was a high probability of failure. For safety's sake, he decided to stick to the original plan. Soon, the three of them crossed several mountains and arrived at a mist-shrouded valley. Gentlemen, this is where we encountered the Ninetales. Kamiyane called out, turning back. Gold and Silver immediately halted, spotting the scattered corpses of Cloud ninjas. Frowning deeply, they stepped forward to investigate. The ninjas had died gruesomely, their bodies torn apart as if by sharp claws. Silver couldn't help but wrinkle his nose. The air was thick with the stench of blood. Yuki Sora, so this is where you died. Silver discovered a pale head. Gold furrowed his brow slightly. Strange, I don't sense the Ninetales' presence. Amui, when was the last time you saw the Ninetales? At this distance, we should be able to sense it. PFFT. Silver instinctively looked down, his vision blurring as a gleaming blue blade pierced through his chest, hot blood gushing down. Ah, I wanted to ask you the same question. Kamiyane whispered softly into his ear, pressing against his back. Amui, you. Silver was stunned, coughing up a mouthful of blood. His heart had already been pierced. Kamiyane swiftly withdrew his hand, as if pulling something out of a bag. In the next instant, an enraged Gold lunged forward with a roar that echoed like thunder. You dare harm Silver? Whether you're Amui or not, you're dead. His hair bristled like a porcupine's, and his two thick arms seized Kamiyane's left and right hands. With a sudden burst of immense strength, Kamiyane, or rather, Amui, was torn in half, shattered organs scattering in all directions, raining down in a bloody shower. Boom. 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 A series of explosions erupted at his feet, white smoke filling the valley in an instant. Kamiyane had thrown all his smoke bombs at the last moment. Damn it. Damn it. Damn it. I'll kill you. I'll kill everyone. Gold panted like a beast, his body surging with chakra. Deep red-tailed beast chakra tore through his skin, seeping out from the cracks and enveloping his entire body. The dragon's reverse scale. Touch it, and you die. Silver was his reverse scale. Now, witnessing his brother's death, he could no longer suppress the hatred in his heart. The desire to kill surged overwhelmingly. The chakra of the tailed beasts is inherently volatile and difficult to control, a fact that holds true even for the descendants of the Sage of Six Paths. At this moment, he has been completely enraged, and the last vestiges of his rationality have been devoured by the will of the tailed beasts. As his chakra erupted, the surging wind dispersed most of the smoke, and the ground beneath him couldn't withstand the immense force, cracking inch by inch. Roar! Gold howled at the sky, now in a semi-tailed beast form, with 6 red tails writhing menacingly. With a swipe of his claws, the smoke split in two. But as he charged out of the smoke, he was met with a pair of crimson Mangekyo Sharingan eyes. A fully prepared, bug-level Genjutsu had been waiting for him. Tsukami. The unexpected move caught the frenzied Gold off guard. His eyes instantly glazed over, and he collapsed limply, sliding to the feet of Hikari Uchiha like a puppet with its strings cut. Hikari staggered, her delicate face instantly turning pale. Subduing Gold had drained her grayly, and blood trickled down her cheek. The consciousness of Kinkaku had long since fallen into the illusionary space of Tsukami. Unable to extricate himself. Surprisingly smooth, came the voice of Kamiane from the side. He patted Hikari Uchiha's shoulder. Are you alright? When Kinkaku killed Amu with his bare hands, his spirit had already detached a moment earlier and returned to his own body. Yeah, I didn't expect this guy to drain so much of my chakra. Hikari Uchiha covered her left eye, breathing slightly heavily. Without delay, let's interrogate for information now. Suddenly, a white light flashed through the thin smoke. Kamiane's pupils slightly contracted as he pulled Hikari Uchiha's body aside, simultaneously activating the Mangekyo Sharingan in an instant. A pitch-black skeleton enveloped his entire body. Clang! A sharp metallic clashing sound rang in their ears. Kamiane, clad in the unmovable Susanoo, watched as a silver blade, shaped like a door panel, was sent flying into the air, spinning before landing back into someone's hand. Genkaku. At this moment, a wine red-tailed beast chakra surfaced on his body, with 6 long tails swaying freely. Unlike Kinkaku, his chakra appeared semi-transparent, and his eyes were lively and cunning, showing no signs of losing his sanity. Tailed beast chakra cloak. Kamiane narrowed his eyes, smiling mockingly. So between the two brothers, you are the one truly adept at manipulating the 9 tails chakra. The tailed beast chakra cloak is a refined technique that borrows the tailed beast's chakra without fully transforming into the beast. At this stage, the ninja retains their personal consciousness, with all abilities enhanced. The tailed beast chakra also heals the ninja's wounds, leaving almost no scars, granting formidable combat capabilities. In the original timeline, this was the signature move of Killer Bee, known as the perfect Jinchuriki. Because of this, I managed to save my life, didn't I? Genkaku tilted his head with a sinister charm, pointing at his chest. Ah, so it was you who sneak attacked me, huh? That slash really hurt. The ground beneath his feet cracked instantly as he transformed into a red shadow, lunging forward with such speed that the 7-star sword turned into a blurry silver light. But Kamiane matched his speed. A massive skeletal hand appeared out of nowhere, punching Kinkaku into the adjacent stone wall. Boom. Black energy surged and coiled as another skeletal hand grew from the dark ribs outside Kamiane's body. Both fists pounded relentlessly, shattering the stone wall and sending dust flying into the air. This was the initial stage of Susanoo, usable for attack, defense, protection, and control. Besides its renowned defensive capabilities, the strength of Susanoo's arms alone was immense. With just a few punches, Kamiane had excavated a small cave on the spot. Hikari was utterly stunned, envious of this power. Yet, for some reason, despite awakening her Sharingan earlier than Kamiane, she had yet to awaken Susanoo. Chapter 16, The 6 Paths Ninja Tools. Kamiane manipulated the Susanoo to retract its fist, only to discover that a segment of golden hemp rope had somehow wound itself around the wrist of the skeletal hand. What is this? Kamiane's eyes revealed surprise. Immediately after, Genkaku flew out from the dust-filled hole, holding the other end of the golden rope, swinging like a gibbon onto the rocky cliff. His robe and soft armor were tattered, with bruises on his forehead and arms, but no other injuries. That fist, capable of splitting mountains and shattering rocks, had merely left him somewhat disheveled. An ordinary ninja would have been pulverized long ago. Feeling uneasy with the golden rope around him, Kamiane promptly dismissed the skeletal arm of the Susanoo and regenerated a new one. Sharingan, Uchiha. Are you from Hidden Leaf Village? Genkaku, with a 7-star sword resting on his shoulder, looked down at them imperiously, while the thick golden rope automatically coiled around his arm. Hikari, is there a chance? Kamiane asked in a low voice without turning his head. Hikari Uchiha shook her head. No, this guy has been avoiding my gaze. Kamiyane also frowned slightly. Ginkaku was extremely cunning, avoiding eye contact both in combat and during confrontation, leaving them no opportunity to cast Genjutsu. Be careful, that rope is strange. It's probably the Kinkaku rope I told you about. It's best not to be touched by it. He cautioned seriously. Hikari nodded cautiously. The Kinkaku rope, when touched, causes the victim to spew out their most frequently used words. Their word spirit. The words they have spoken most since birth. The seven-star sword was not forged for slashing, its true purpose is to sever the opponent's word spirit and cast a curse. The red gourd can record and seal the word spirit. When the target utters a keyword, remains silent for too long, or says something phonetically similar to the keyword, they are sucked into the gourd and sealed permanently. These three items together form a potent Kality-based weapon. As for the other two Six Paths tools, the Amber Purifying Pot is an oversized jar that seals anyone who responds to the holder words, capable of even suppressing the rampaging Eight Tails. The Bashozen, on the other hand, disregards the user's chakra nature, allowing the simultaneous release of fire, water, lightning, wind, and earth-based ninjutsu. A true weapon of mass destruction. Upon reflection, these brothers, both in raw power and weaponry, are indeed Kage-level strongmen. At this moment, Ginkaku grinned. Not answering means you admit it. His expression gradually turned maniacal, slightly ferocious under the influence of the tailed beast chakra. Daring to attack us brothers, unforgivable. Whoever you are, just obediently enter my red gourd. A 3-inch gourd was tossed into the air, growing with the wind, and in the blink of an eye, it became half a person's height, cradled at Ginkaku's waist. Fire style, Great Fireball. Hikari initiated the attack. After 5 years of training, her fire-style ninjutsu was second nature. A massive fireball shot forth but was cleaved in two by Ginkaku's sword. Don't joke around, a technique of this level can't possibly harm me. Ginkaku descended from the sky, the 7-star sword aimed directly at Hikari Uchiha's head, a silver light daring through the air. Hikari dodged immediately, but Ginkaku fainted, suddenly charging towards another spot. The location of Kinkaku. He wants to release Kinkaku from the Genjutsu. Kamiyane's gaze turned cold, instantly appearing before Kinkaku, controlling the initial stage of Susanoo to throw a punch. The black skeletal fist moved like a thunderbolt, stirring a heavy gust of wind. Absorb, Kinkaku rope. Ginkaku suddenly spoke. Instead of the expected forceful collision, Kamiyane's eyes widened, his stomach churning like waves. Temporarily losing control of his body, the skeleton of his Susanoo flickered, ribs and arm dissipating into black mist. He involuntarily opened his mouth, spewing a milky blue halo. This is my word spirit. His eyes were filled with disbelief. How is this possible? I wasn't even touched by the Kinkaku rope. Curse, 7-star sword. Ginkaku murmured, a smirk of success flashing across his lips as he slashed vertically with the sword. Kamiyane! Hikari Uchiha shouted urgently. At the critical moment, Kamiyane remained calm, leaning back slightly to avoid the deadly edge, but the emitted halo was still severed by the 7-star sword. Kamiyane's expression turned grave. He thought he had a good understanding of the Sage of Six Paths treasures, but he still fell for the trick. Ginkaku spun his body sharply, the 7-star sword slicing a semicircle, forcing the two back. Thought not touching the body would save you? Touching your chakra with the Kinkaku rope also absorbs your word spirit. Kid. Ginkaku laughed maniacally, raising the red gourd. Red gourd. With a pop. The blue halo floating in the air was instantly sucked into the gourd's mouth. Ginkaku lifted the 7-star sword, and on its mirror-like surface, Kamiyane's word spirit appeared, Lord Madara. Oh? Ginkaku raised an eyebrow, showing interest. Seen my word spirit? Kamiyane looked up, his two crimson Mangekyo Sharingan spinning ominously. If I'm not mistaken, it's Lord Madara, right? At this moment, both Ginkaku and Hikari Uchiha widened their eyes. The former in delight, immediately raising the red gourd, the latter in shock. Earlier, Kamiyane had detailed the 6 Paths tools of Kinkaku and Ginkaku to Hikari Uchiha. She hadn't expected Kamiyane to take such a risk, seemingly forgetting the consequences. Sure enough, panic flashed across Kamiyane's face, his body seemingly out of control, suddenly lunging towards Kinkaku. But just as he neared the gourd's mouth, a sharp blue light erupted from his left hand, slashing towards Kinkaku's neck. Leave Autumn Dew. What? Silverhorn could hardly believe his eyes. In a hurry, he raised his sword to block. With a clang, Autumn Dew scraped against the 7-star sword, sending a series of sparks flying. Kamiyane seized the opportunity to grab the blade of the sword. With a somersault, he flipped behind Silverhorn. A blue halo gathered in his palm, and the air currents became turbulent, accompanied by a buzzing sound. In his hand, a high-speed rotating chakra sphere appeared. Rasengan. Holding the Rasengan with one hand, Kamiyane, under Silverhorn's panicked gaze, pressed it firmly against his back. The swirling wind expanded, and Silverhorn's body was blasted away by a tremendous twisting force, crashing into the stone wall behind him. Quite interesting. The destructive power is not bad. Kamiyane nodded in satisfaction. Makerad had endowed him with formidable learning abilities. Moreover, a knee-rank ninjutsu like the Rasengan was not difficult to master once the principle and training method were understood. In the original timeline, Jiraiya had mastered it in just 3 days. The difficulty lay solely in the extreme manipulation of chakra's form, causing the chakra to flow continuously in different directions and compress it into a high rotation density chakra sphere. In terms of research on chakra form transformation, Kamiyane was far more profound than Jiraiya. The autumn dew on leaves, which had even shocked Obirama, spoke volumes. Thus, this signature ninjutsu of the protagonist from the original timeline was fully mastered by him in just 1 day. Why? I clearly severed your verbal incantation. Silverhorn was somewhat frantic, scrambling to his feet from the pile of rubble. Is that so? I don't recall such a thing. Kamiyane sneered. After the verbal incantation was absorbed into the red gourd, he activated his ocular jutsu, simultaneously opening Makerad and Amano Tokatachi. While adapting to the binding rope, he reverted his own state to before he was touched by the binding rope. Judging from the perspective of the entire timeline, he was intact at that moment, unaffected by any external force. Therefore, this operation effectively overwrote the fact that his verbal incantation had been severed. His choice was wise. The binding rope, the 7-star sword, and the red gourd. These 3 quality-based ninja tools required the extraction of the verbal incantation by the binding rope as a prerequisite for activation. Thus, by merely nullifying the binding rope's effect, the latter 2 would collapse on their own. Damn it, what is going on? Silverhorn was still in a frenzy, but no one would explain it to him. This was the world of Naruto, where intelligence was of utmost importance. There was no concept like technique disclosure. And Kamiyane had no interest in explaining his ocular abilities. Amaterasu. Taking advantage of the moment, Kamiyane attacked. A black flame struck Silverhorn's chest. Not good. Sensing the eerie temperature, Silverhorn's pupils contracted sharply. The crimson-tailed beast cloak writhed frantically, converging towards his chest. To Kamiyane's astonishment, the guy actually voluntarily shed the tailed beast chakra from his body, letting it fall to the ground along with Amaterasu's black flames, burning into nothingness. He actually used this method to block Amaterasu's burning? Kamiyane was also surprised, as this was the same method Naruto had used to counter Amaterasu in the original timeline. So this is the flame that is said to never extinguish. Truly dangerous. Silverhorn chuckled darkly, his fierce gaze turning towards Kamiyane Uchiha. It seems you are the enemy I should prioritize eliminating. Chapter 17, Fierce Battle Within the Valley. Ginkaku once again activated the tail beast chakra cloak. Having tasted the flavor of Amaterasu, he immediately shifted his target and launched an attack towards Hikari Uchiha. Take this. Having consecutively unleashed 2 ocular techniques, Hikari's face was already drenched in blood, her vision somewhat blurred. Hearing the sharp whistle of the wind, she quickly clasped her hands together. Fire style, Great Dragon Flame technique. Tilting her head back, she exhaled a flame that transformed into a lifelike dragon's head, carrying a wave of heat and high temperature to meet the incoming slash. With a crack, the fire dragon was split in 2 from the center, accompanied by Ginkaku's maniacal laughter. The sword's Hikari Uchiha was unstoppable. Facing the increasingly close 7-star sword, Hikari Uchiha's eyes were illuminated. At that moment, her vision blurred, and a Hikari Uchiha's frail figure appeared in front of her. The pitch-black skeletal hand emerged with lightning speed, producing a resounding clang as it firmly intercepted the slash, clutching the 7-star sword in its palm. Amidst the swirling black aura, Kamiyane coldly stared at Ginkaku, his 2 Mangekyo Sharingan emitting a chilling Hikari Uchiha. Damn brat, you're quite fast. Ginkaku sneered. The 7-star sword seemed as if it was embedded in a massive mountain, momentarily impossible to pull out. Seeing another skeletal arm raised high, Ginkaku immediately abandoned the sword and retreated. Such a nuisance. Ginkaku silently recited an incantation, storing the red gourd and freeing his other hand. I'll feint an attack, you find an opportunity to finish him with an ocular technique. Kamiyane quickly spoke, his hand surrounded by a blue Hikari Uchiha, icy blue chakra surging like blades. Before Hikari Uchiha could respond, the black skeletal arm suddenly swung, hurling the 7-star sword high into the sky, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Kamiyane's figure also vanished from the spot. Ginkaku's heart skipped a beat. Part of his attention was drawn to the seven-star sword in the air, but the deadly chakra blade was already slashing towards him. He had lost the initiative to counterattack. With almost all his strength, he twisted his body. The blade flashed past, and with a whoosh, half of his silver hair scattered like snow. "My hair!" Ginkaku roared and lunged at Kamiyane, his burly figure blocking the sun Hikari Uchiha, resembling a tiger ready to devour its prey. After just a few exchanges, Kamiyane was struggling to keep up. Facing Ginkaku's fierce onslaught, he was barely managing, his speed seemingly falling short. Boom. 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 After several rounds, he had been hit multiple times by Ginkaku. If it weren't for the Susanoo, he would have been severely injured. The terrifying force was even causing the skeletal structure to crack. "Hey, it seems this is the limit of my normal state." Kamiyane's expression turned serious as he began to quietly accumulate power. 8 gates released formation, the first inner gate, the gate of opening, open. A faint vein bulged on his forehead. Gate of healing, open. His hair floated, his black robe fluttered without wind, his body turning red like a shrimp due to the rush of blood, even starting to emit a faint heat. Gate of life, open. With a boom, accompanied by a surge of air currents, Kamiyane spread his arms, surrounded by swirling winds, burning with tangible cyan energy. At this moment, his physical abilities had surpassed 10 times his normal state. Ginkaku felt his vision blur, a crimson, ferocious yet delicate face instantly appearing before him. Following that, countless punches and kicks transformed into a storm of attacks. Ginkaku hastily blocked, but was sent flying by a kick to the chest, crashing into the ground, plowing a deep human-shaped trench. A flash of cyan Hikari Uchiha, and Kamiyane was once again in front of Ginkaku. The violent energy left a straight Hikari Uchiha trail in the air, his hands wrapped in swirling winds, sharp chakra blades condensing like ice. "Brat! Don't underestimate me!" Ginkaku roared, shooting out from the flying debris towards Kamiyane. "It's not over yet." 4th gate of injury, open. Kamiyane's speed suddenly increased by a level, his entire figure seeming to blend into the air like a ghost. Dew on autumn leaves combined with the teleportation jutsu, he disappeared on the spot. The next moment, a deadly slash appeared at the back of Ginkaku's neck. Whoosh! Every hair on Ginkaku's body stood on end. He desperately twisted his body, feeling a numbness in his neck, followed by a searing pain. "Bastard! You almost took my head off." Ginkaku clutched his neck, warm blood seeping through his fingers. His pupils trembled with panic, the sweat on his forehead evaporating from the heat. So close. Just that little bit more. He was almost decapitated. "Ah! I'll kill you." As if responding to his rage, the Nine-Tails chakra burned fiercely, and he shot towards Kamiyane like a cannonball. A red and a green Hikari Uchiha clashed wildly, rampaging through the valley. Fists and palms like wind, sword shadows flashing, debris flying everywhere, their figures blurred and indistinct. Only after images crisscrossed, tangled together, impossible to separate. One could only barely discern their trajectories from the suddenly exploding stone walls and the rising dust. Hikari looked around, biting her red lips, her mindset subtly changing. Is this his true strength? So, the gap between us is this vast. Although entrusted by Kamiyane with the fatal strike, her feelings were complicated. 5 years of training, both their strengths had grown. If leaps and bounds described her progress, then Kamiyane's growth was 1,000 miles a day. In terms of forbidden techniques, the spiritualization technique has strengthened his soul, and based on his spiritual power, both his yin style and ocular power have been enhanced, while the 8 gates formation has further elevated his limits. With his current strength, he can even open the Gate of Wonder to its maximum. In the realm of ninjutsu, under Madara's guidance, he has not only mastered a large number of fire-style techniques, but his fine control of chakra has also significantly improved, making even minor techniques incredibly powerful. In taijutsu, he has inherited Madara's true teachings, shifting away from a life-risking combat style to a more swift and efficient approach, simple yet deadly. As for Genjutsu, through sparring with Hikari Uchiha, he has gradually reached a proficient level, likely not far behind Itachi Uchiha of the original timeline, but if the opponent uses Tsukaimi, that's another story, as he does not possess Genjutsu eyes. His development of the Mangekyo Sharingan is also nothing short of impressive, not to mention the devastating weapon that is Susanoo. Ginkaku's eyes gleamed with ferocity, the ground beneath his feet instantly shattered, and a fierce upward strike arrived as scheduled in the next second. Boom! Ginkaku slammed his fists into the ground, unleashing a surge of violent airwaves, his expression fierce, fangs clenched, his body covered in bloodstains. He had already experienced the uniqueness of Kamiyane's chakra blade, which was not a simple change in form, The seemingly ordinary blade had a chakra flow within it like an unceasing river, forming a perfect closed circuit throughout the entire blade, endlessly flowing and regenerating. Every seemingly simple touch felt like being cut by a chainsaw, rendering his tailed beast chakra cloak useless. A gust of wind swept by, Kamiane leaped into the air, retracting his limbs, dark ribs manifesting at will, encasing his body like armor. Ginkaku's eyes gleamed with malice, the ground beneath his feet cracked, and a fierce upward strike arrived as promised the next second. Bang! The sharp long horn clashed violently with the Susanoo skeleton, the mere impact creating a deafening roar, the earth shaking and crumbling, the wind expanding with a boom. Kamiane's figure was thrown far into the sky. He was about to form the hand seals for fire style, but found a golden rope entangled around the ribs outside his body. Kid. Forgot about this move, didn't you? Ginkaku laughed wildly. With a pull and a tug, Kamiane shot back at an even faster speed. Suck it up, Kokenjo. Ginkaku pulled back his fist, already poised to strike, waiting for the moment Kamiane's Susanoo would go out of control. Kamiane's expression remained calm. He actually reached out and grabbed the Kokenjo himself? A word of advice, don't use the same move on me twice. Kamiane spoke indifferently, his left eye rotating eerily, bleeding while emitting a bizarre Hikari Uchiha. With Makerad. Kamiane had already adapted to the three great ninja tools. He pulled the Kokenjo, repeating Ginkaku's incantation. Suck it up, Kokenjo. Ginkaku's eyes widened, his tailed beast chakra cloak instantly dispersing. In that moment, he seemed to lose control of his body, as if disconnected from the world. He uncontrollably spat out a blue mist, his words of power. How is this possible? Why is the Kokenjo backfiring on me? Ginkaku's pupils contracted violently. What did you do? Kamiane certainly wouldn't miss such an opportunity. He rubbed his hands together, a chakra blade as solid as reality pierced through Ginkaku's chest, pinning him to the ground with the immense kinetic energy from the sky. But that wasn't all. A bone arm grew from the Susanoo ribs, as Hikari Uchiha raised as if catching something. Kamiane jumped in place, the bone arm poised to swing down, and as a flash of silver Hikari Uchiha passed, the flowing blade reflected Ginkaku's panicked face. That was the Shichiken. Damn it. Did he calculate the timing and landing spot in advance? Curse it, Shichiken. With a sizzle, Ginkaku turned his head, an ear was sliced off, along with the drifting words of power. Kamiane stepped on Ginkaku's chest, reaching into his pocket, where the red gourd was stored. Damn it. Ginkaku roared in anger. I'll make you pay. He clapped his palms together, the surrounding air surged violently, hot and thick-tailed beast chakra emerged from his body, transforming into long tails sweeping wildly. Kamiane immediately retreated out of his attack range. Dust and gravel floated as Hikari Uchiha. A massive force was rising. Deep red chakra flowed like molten lava from hell, enveloping Ginkaku. Suddenly, the lava crackled, rapidly expanding, and in Kamiane's astonished gaze, a burly figure clad in skeletal armor let out a long roar to the sky. That is. Chapter 18, I am invincible. Fellow cultivators, please toss any unwanted energy stones my way. Silverhorn stood in the center of the arena, his entire body coursing with energy like molten lava, the two tufts of hair on his forehead resembling the shape of fox hairs. All his injuries had healed, his body radiating a crimson glow, his exoskeletal skin trembling, exuding waves of formidable aura. He silently recited an incantation, and Kamiane suddenly felt the Huangjin rope on his left arm rapidly heating up. He immediately released it, and the rope, like a serpent, began to writhe on its own, returning to Silverhorn's hand. Still got tricks up your sleeve? Kamiane's expression turned grave as he stared at Silverhorn in this state. Silverhorn opened his mouth, and the Huangjin rope, the seven-star sword, along with the floating Kodadama, all shrank and were sucked into his mouth. Didn't expect this, huh? You forced me to reveal my trump card. Silverhorn's rough voice echoed from within the skeletal mask. Amaterasu. Hikaru Uchiha seized the moment, unleashing the long-prepared Amaterasu. A black flame instantly appeared on Silverhorn's back, but with a flash of red light, Silverhorn vanished from the spot. The Amaterasu missed its target and, unexpectedly, landed on Kamiane instead. Engulfed in black flames, Kamiane frowned, but before he could react, a fierce gust of wind surged before him. Silverhorn had already closed the distance, his fist aimed directly at Kamiane. Incredible speed. Kamiane's gaze sharpened, chakra naturally surging to his legs. The crimson fist came crashing down, as if it had drained the air, and Kamiane's body seemed to tear apart. Yet, Silverhorn let out a puzzled sound. This feeling. Wrong. It's an afterimage. He abruptly looked up to find Kamiane already leaping above him. Silverhorn's back erupted with red light, and a long tail, entirely composed of tailed beast energy, formed and lashed out toward Kamiyane. Kamiyane, Madara, and unable to gain leverage, clasped his hands together. His black-clad figure flickered, splitting into two, narrowly avoiding the tail. Phantom teleportation jutsu. Both Kamiyane landed simultaneously, their chakra blades wrapped in black flames slashing downward. Silverhorn roared, his crimson fist striking like thunder, colliding with Kamiyane's blade. A deafening explosion followed, the shockwave stirring up a fierce wind, visible ripples of energy spreading in all directions. After entering this mode, Silverhorn's attacks became unpredictable, no longer mere physical strikes. The sheer power of his attacks, infused with pure Nine Tails chakra, along with the Six Tails, made him elusive. Relying solely on the Gate of Injury State and Uchi hostile swordsmanship to counter him was clearly insufficient. Fifth Gate of Limit, open. Kamiyane let out a low shout, the blue energy around him intensifying, the air currents surging like a storm, tearing up the ground and sending debris floating. He had pushed himself to his current limit. At this moment, with a single step, he could traverse 100 meters in an instant, and with a flick of his finger, he could shatter stone and sever metal. Relying on the Gate of Limit state, he managed to hold his own against Silverhorn in Nine Tails chakra mode. The two figures continued to split, 2 becoming 4, 4 becoming 8. After just a few exchanges, 16 identical figures surrounded Silverhorn. Kamiyane wasn't in a hurry to extinguish the Amaterasu through reversal. He had sparred with Hikaru Uchiha for 5 years, during which he had been burned by Amaterasu over 10 times. Thanks to the adaptation of Makerad, he had developed a high resistance to it. Though the chakra blades were sharp, facing a monster like Silverhorn with his insane regenerative abilities, they were barely sufficient. The Susanoo was slightly slower and consumed too much ocular power. To truly injure Silverhorn, he had to rely on the Amaterasu covering his body. The fact that Hikari cannot hit Ginkaku does not mean that he cannot. The numerous clones pounced from all directions, the blue energy intertwined with black flames raging and burning. In no time, Silverhorn's body was covered in patches of black fire. Enraged, Silverhorn continuously shed his tailed beast cloak to block the Amaterasu's flames. As they fought, fragments of bone fell to the ground, and this method of severing tails to survive filled him with humiliation. Under the onslaught of so many clones, even Silverhorn felt overwhelmed. Though he swept with his long tails, the clones wouldn't disappear even when hit, their figures flickering briefly before attacking again. This can't go on. These damn flames are draining my chakra too quickly. Silverhorn crossed his arms in front of him. Try this move of mine. He leaped into the air, his entire body erupting with red light, like a burning miniature sun, all 6 tails striking the ground simultaneously. Boom. The ground instantly shattered, a surging wave of energy rushing in all directions, the red energy like a raging river, overturning everything, and in an instant, engulfing all of Kamiyane's clones. As the dust settled, Silverhorn froze in shock. The 16 figures stood unharmed, like bamboo breaking through rock, unmoved. Within the surging blue energy, 16 pairs of crimson eyes stared coldly at him. How? Is this possible? Are they all massless afterimages? But why does each attack feel so heavy? My teleportation jutsu has no physical form. Kamiyane's clones spoke in unison, raising their chakra blades in perfect sync. But at the same time, you could say all the clones are physical. This monotonous method of attack must be tiring for you. Kamiyane smiled slightly, the energy boiling around him like a dark blue cloak. Let's try something new. I ask you, should these clones use Susanoo? What? Silverhorn's mouth hung open, as if the question was difficult to answer. Fine, I'll answer for you. Kamiyane's lips curled into a smirk. The answer is,